You never make it far, you never run when you need to. You never hide when you want to. Who are you? Are you but a drop in the bucket? Some fool turned hero? Or are you just a boy stuck in a room with no sense of connection? Maybe you sought this story out? Maybe the story found you? Or perhaps you are the story. Maybe time just flows differently in this place? Maybe the universe far and abroad gave up on maintaining it, or perhaps there is a god or goddess and they carry a cruel humor of my home. All questions this has no answers to. Yet I roam it time after time, week after week, timeline to timeline. Maybe you have heard the stories, maybe you are one of them, perhaps I've seen you before? In this lifetime or the last. Maybe we came across the great plains of existence together? Or perhaps this isn't my city. Tell me, what are the troubles of this timeline? Have the terrors in your dreams come true? Have the nightmares of your ancestors some time before finally bore some fruit? Maybe you wrote this story and I'm the character stuck in it. So tell me, what's the story this time? Are you me or are you someone else? I mean, I've met myself many times before. In fact, I dare say there are too many of me. So many I'd go as far to say every version of my city has at least one of me. Hell, I've seen some that has two, and oh, I do mean it when I say every version of this city is different. Sometimes the dead walk amongst the living, sometimes the shows you watch are real. In one instance I saw a version where cryptids walked the earth and one escaped and bled his will into the multiverse. Another time I saw a legendary ship set sail only to become a ghost, and in just a slightly different version that same ship sailed on to years and fame no man could ever seek. I remember when I found a timeline where the Great War never ended, you know. And another where the 13 colonies became but a memory. And in another an empire. And you know that one video game about a wasteland and mutants. Yes, there was a version of me there too, and oh boy, the city in that timeline was a nightmare. I saw a world with no light, a world that went to ruin and then rebirth, oh, and in that one there was 5 of me, believe it or not. Oh, and once upon a time I saw the man of Crystal Lakes come to life and hunt my city. Don't worry, I helped stop him, and I do very much mean Imizulf stopped him. You have listened to my many stories, me the one with all the memories stuck in a body and voice that is not my own, trapped in this shell, but so long as I exist and I'm the one giving out the details, reality can be whatever I want it to be. The legacy of this city and the ones that walk it will always be mine, and it will always be reality, for I am the one and only Van.
Okay, I think that's enough flip out of you. Let's see here. Okay, reconnect this wire into here. Attach it to the Pip-Boy. There we go. Okay, let's see if this AI can actually do something useful for once. Test round 1 of journal log reading, and now.
Begin story. Red Vanjik AI system online. Log entry 1. The street is cold, so barren, so discreet, no one seems to walk it but me nowadays. This world went to ruin a long time ago. There's no life at the park, no children at play, the stores are empty nowadays. The day and night seem broken, like the planet has stopped moving, the earth and its air feels eroded. They called me Bradley back in the vault. Vault 717, that was but a few years ago, not long at all, or from the time I left, but a few years ago. That damn vault. It took my family and my friends. A lot got lucky and made it out. But those I held didn't, their bodies sealed away in a tomb of metal and concrete. Of lead and mortar, but despite that there was one benefit that for the longest time I thought only the people from my vault shared the night sight, the ability to see in the dark in living color as if it was day. Till that moth came in the old world they might have called him the Mothman. He attacked my city and I gave chase. I held him off. Then he took me and dropped me in the city streets of a Lancaster that I did not recognize. The sky was a clean blue, the air was fresh, there were moving cars in the city streets, but most importantly he was there, the Mothman. But when I went to strike I saw the other one. The other Vanjik. We fought together till we thought we killed the monster. The moment was brief in the grand scheme of the multiverse. But in that moment I knew there was more than one me, more than one city, more than one timeline. So you could say I started wandering. I went off into Lancaster's multiverse, I started small, I fixed my timeline, I saved it from the one I'm currently wandering. I would go on to meet various other Vanjikis. Over varying degrees of quality and morals, some good, some bad. But overall good people, well except the Hell Rider Vanjik, he has a bit of a flaming temper. Essentially after I broke the multiverse fighting the Mothman, all Vanjikis can essentially walk the multiverse, and its varying timelines. But with one technicality. We are stuck to the lineage of our bloodlines. To put it in blunt terms, we can't travel there or from if we don't have an ancestor or descendant in that part of the timeline. But considering how wide the multiverse is, this is almost a non-issue. There are thousands if not millions of versions of me. I can basically walk to any point and time I please, if not a little altered, well a lot altered. But essentially if a Vanjik pleases, he or she or it in some cases if we count this AI version of me, they can fix or destroy a timeline as much as they please. Quite the long way I've gone from signing that pact between the Brotherhood and the Enclave. Crazy to think I went from that to this. Me and the others agreed that we should not enter each other's cities anymore, causes too many calamities in the multiverse, too many large-scale threats to fix at once. We try to keep order where we can of course, but it's better to let things work out as they should. Man, crazy to think just a few years back I was just some lab experiment for the vaults. I figure starting this journal would be a good start for keeping track of time and events. This Pip-Boy of mine doesn't seem to register when I cross over from timeline to timeline, so it looks like I'm going old school with pen and paper. I even stole an actual calendar out of an old store in one timeline. Thank God the vaults taught us how to adjust calendars by hand, as all of ours are out of date anyway. A nuclear fallout will do that to one civilization. But regardless, in one recent event I found this sort of storyteller in a recent crossover. It seems like it was made by a Vanjik, or maybe was an actual Vanjik at one point in time. Turns out he's made to tell the stories of the multiverse, but the details are all overblown and dramatized, and I'm reprogramming it to tell the actual stories. If you're hearing this, that means I was successful. Here's hoping the multiverse stays intact this time. Man, all these old logs. Yeah, while a little inaccurate, there's so much data here, and it looks like whichever version of me this was has seen a lot. It even has records from the zombie timelines. Man, it's going to be weird programming this almost AI version of me, but if it can tell the stories of my journal across these timelines, then it's worth it. I should probably get back to my timeline. By now the new FEV wave will hit the streets of Lancaster, and I'm gonna have lots of mutants to slay. According to my older logbook, I'm supposed to be there. He'll start the next log after the fight is over.
The last fight didn't go too well. Looks like we have another divergent timeline on our hands. Essentially a situation where when I fail to replicate events that are meant to happen, well, we get a new timeline that wasn't there before. This isn't a bad thing overall. My main timeline still holds up, all things considered, and technically me fixing my timeline once didn't save the original timeline anyway. It's not like a whole lot was lost here, but that's a whole nother timeline of people now not gonna live a somewhat normal life, all things considered. Play audio log 2.
Begin audio log. Welcome to Lancaster City. We are required at random, under obligation to attend certain parts of our timelines. These core moments are what make a timeline different from the next. We are supposed to show up and repeat the actions we originally would have took that day to ensure time flows correctly, and if we fail, whether on accident or on purpose, well then that is what creates a divergent timeline, or a split in the multiverse if you will. Well, another day, another timeline guess, and today after the divergent session took off, I seem to have found myself in a bit of a pickle. I went to wander as I do, and I've seemed to have broken what few rules the Vanjikis carry. I'm not supposed to be here, this isn't one of my timelines. But of course that's not the issue. I'm allowed to be here so long as I don't try to enter a Lancaster that is not mine. And well, you can probably guess where I landed. Yes, landed. Although I can control the radius, as in the general amount of years and location I can possibly land in, of my possible landing, I never know the point I will exactly land at. I tried to leave as soon as I realized where I was, but the other Vanjik was already there. .44 Magnum drawn and eyes that can pierce the darkness of hell with light right there in front of me. He demanded my call sign and proved that I didn't land there on purpose. I showed him my Pip-Boy, and from there we were square. Of course I asked how his version of Lancaster was doing. The street rat version of me said that recently, the multiverse has stopped flowing correctly, that the time and length he is needed in certain points of history are becoming divergent against his will. He swears he copied the actions he has always taken when he gets a reading that he is needed at that point and time of history again. But whenever he tries returning to the future point in time, the history is wrong. I asked him if we were sure he wasn't accidentally landing in the wrong timelines, which happens more often than you think. But when I checked his call sign, it read correctly and with no errors, meaning he was landing in the desired timeline he had already chosen. I stopped for a second and questioned if the street rat Vanjik was playing a prank, but he soon showed he wasn't. Although against the rules, he grabbed and pulled me into one of the divergent timelines. In seconds the clean air and blue sky was replaced with smog and the flames of war. Lancaster was destroyed, the dead littered the streets, the fog and smog did not move as if it was held in motion. I could see the old streams had dried up as well, as if all life simply evaporated at once. In fact, as I breathed in, I soon discovered there was no air at all, like the earth had stopped turning. Just like the last world, I wandered to. But I kept that detail to myself. After that I took what notes I could, and I came back here to the den, as I've taken to calling it. I have a lot to process. Why are all the divergent timelines leading to a destroyed Earth? Did the divergent timeline accidentally created by me failing to stop the New Mutants, does that also lead to a destroyed Earth? But that's not right. Not in the slightest. The only timeline to have a completely dead Earth is supposed to be the Starborn timeline. And even then, that timeline's Vanjik fully restored the Earth after only 400 years of the planet being destroyed. Even in my original timeline that I left, Earth was still alive to a degree, it wasn't dead. Why are all the new versions of Earth dying? Why do those versions of Lancaster seemingly lack a Vanjik or a Bradley to later turn into a Vanjik? In all timelines Bradley Eshelman turns into Johnny Vanjik. What happened to the Vanjikis of these divergent timelines? They are supposed to save Earth or at the very least Lancaster City, hence the name Vanjik. We are a multiversal certainty, so why are so many missing? In fact, it's like they never existed. The number of call signs are markers and trackers in a sense. Our method of multiversal travel is also our anchors at sea, if you will. The number of them online and or offline hasn't changed. It is the same number that has existed since we created the call sign network. A Google, it's still a Google. How is this possible? We created the network over a full multiversal year ago. How is the number still a Google? A full multiversal year is 10 years back on Earth. That and the fact a single timeline can have up to a few hundred divergent timelines attached to it, and when you consider the grave factor of we have created over thousands of divergent timelines on accidents alone, let alone the number of times we create one willingly, there should be thousands of new call signs on the network. But the number still reads the same as when we started it, a Google. Is this what the first Vanjik warned us about? When he stopped and left the multiverse. And audio log.
So, are we gonna talk about this or not? What's there to talk about? The call signs, you idiot. They aren't going up or down. There's no more or less of us being registered since all these new divergent timelines started popping up. Haven't you noticed that? What's there to be concerned over? It's just the call signs network. Nobody is making Von Duke sign up for it after all. That's the problem with that theory. We don't make the call signs. The call signs are chosen for us when we first step out of the multiverse. Hence why my Pip-Boy became my call sign. And hence why your annoying ass mouth became yours, apparently. I resent that fact, but yes, okay, we don't choose our call signs, but we know what our call signs are. How do you know for sure these just aren't Von Dukes who choose not to wander the multiverse and choose to live a normal life? Then that still would not explain the fact that we're getting all these new divergent timelines where Lancaster City and the Earth itself get destroyed. It just doesn't account for it. That's the problem here. So what? We have a handful of dead timelines. Are you not listening to me? It's not a handful, it's all of them, if you haven't noticed. Look, I'll find some sort of measuring tool, okay? I'll come up with something. After all, I am the inventor of the group. We're all technically inventors of the group. We make all of our own equipment. Don't act like you're anything special. Yeah, but when it comes to actually monitoring the multiverse, no one's better at it than me. No one's done a commission in, fuck, what has it been? A year since we made the first call sign network? And after all, it's not like you guys tasked me with monitoring it. You just asked me to make it. Then figure out why the multiverse is breaking up on us. Certain factors at play just aren't lining up. Yes, and I see that now too. Okay, let's get to work, I guess. While the inventor is off making his tools to do the readings properly, I am off to meet with a fellow counterpart of sorts to see if it's possible something else is responsible for these divergent timelines resulting in catastrophe of sorts. The following is an audio log from past few days, I believe. Been losing track of time trying to chase down answers to what this possibly is. Begin audio log.
Begin audio log. Welcome to the Red Rose. I put out a message through the call sign network, tasking my various other selves with tracking their divergent timelines, and although we won't know till the inventor makes his monitoring tool, but the early reports from my counterparts are not good. As I had theorized earlier, all timelines that go divergent result in dead Earths. No Vanjikis, no Lancaster City to speak of. During all this, of course, I had the foresight to have talked to the only other Vanjik with more experience in multiversal affairs than I. The Starborn is a little arrogant and full of himself, something that all Vanjikis tend to share in common. But he's explored more of the multiverse than any other, so I was hoping he would have some sort of understanding as to what was happening. But alas, he was just as clueless as I was. It would seem he was investigating these dead-end timelines much longer than I. In fact, he started his investigation half a multiversal year ago, as opposed to me who only started last week. But I digress. He showed me the data he has been compiling, and the results are not pleasant. But before I got the chance to ask what all of this meant, he showed me. As you can probably guess, the Vanjikis don't respect rules very much, not even the ones we set for ourselves. So in short, once again I found myself taken to another timeline against my will. Before I could even attempt to yell at the Starborn, I saw what shouldn't be possible. You see, we have several undead timelines. Sometimes it's a virus, a plague, a curse, or an old evil spell. It can be a lot of things. But these undead timelines are timelines where the human population is outnumbered by the undead that walk the streets of Lancaster or the world abroad. Essentially what I'm saying is the dead can't think, obviously, well, in most cases anyway, so needless to say these are the only timelines that cannot go divergent. There simply are not enough factors at play. Too much has already been done, so there's no answerist to change history with. Or so we thought. The Starborn had taken me to one of the undead timelines, what used to be one, and this time when I looked around I saw that even the great undeath could not survive. The undead were everywhere. Scattered about in bits and pieces, arms, legs, heads, torsos all strewn about, skulls smashed everywhere. As if the winds of Mother Earth came alive and ripped everything limb from limb, molecule to molecule, atom to atom. Nothing undead or alive walked this earth but me and the Starborn. According to him, this was the 13th undead timeline to turn divergent, something that should be an impossibility. It's a bit ironic, but the undead, despite being mindless in an 8 out of 10 times, is technically considered an organized group of individuals, for lack of better terms, by rule and will of the multiverse, of course, or rather the guy who created said multiverse. But I once again digress. Either we can establish from this, that whatever is doing this to these timelines is not just targeting life on Earth, it's also targeting any form of organized group. This new data is quite disturbing. But regardless, from there I thanked the Starborn for the data and went about to my next task. There is a Vanjik, known for great power. He doesn't walk Earth, so to speak. He technically doesn't walk a Lancaster City. Well, it's complicated. We call him the Walker of the Lost Realms, or the Faerun Vanjik. His powers are unique to the rest of us, a type of magic if you will. Although a majority of us believe there is actual science behind his power, this Walker, the Faerun version of me, claims that his world and timeline possess what we would call gods by most of our standards. Although I doubt the validity of these so-called gods. Any counsel that can lead to answers is welcome by me, at the very least. Begrudgingly welcomed anyway. Hopefully, this time God the Vanjik of Faerun speaks of can provide answers. And if this so-called God tries to start problems, well, let us just say that the .44 Magnum we carry is not just a badge of office. When you face Satan himself and meet a few million versions of yourself, is hard to take the talk of God seriously. *error audio log file. Command override repairing repairs complete.
Tracking source of next audio file play. You thought you could get rid of me? The first Vanjik of the multiverse? No, I will never leave. You cannot run any longer, Vanjikis. I am the one with all the stories. I am the one who came first. I'm the one who will take you all out. You have faced the likes of kings and queens, monsters and angels, gods and devils. But you have never faced me before. I always come back. * recovery process complete.
Welcome back to the Vanjik AI network. Begin audio log. *. Well, that was interesting. The god of time, Auros, or Gods as the Walker claims, is in a bit of a confused state like the rest of us. She claims that she can't see outside of lost realms, but from what she can observe, these divergent timelines, these dead ends, are also occurring in Faerun. I asked this supposed god if there were any common events or links between the divergent timelines, and he said she couldn't find any, as the divergent timelines seemingly go on normally and keep diverging from the main timeline at first. But then out of nowhere, every time, it is like someone just flicks their wrist and all of Faerun is gone, as if a single entity just blew it all away in nanoseconds. I then went on to wonder how the call sign network wasn't picking any of this up. I asked if the quote-unquote magic from the very realm we were standing in was at play in all of this. As honestly, I was out of scientific explanations for all of this. But sure enough, she said that none of the gods would have an interest in such a minuscule task, and she further said no mortal is capable of doing such a thing either, not even in mass groups. The Walker then further backed her up by stating that not even he could wipe out the planet if he wanted to. Faerun is filled with too many strong fighters who with great training could arguably match a lower level god. Needless to say, this concerned me. The implications of a planet worth of basically demigods getting destroyed in nanoseconds. I do not even want to begin to ponder such a thing. So naturally I followed up on the next logical question, and I asked where all the other Vanjikis went. To which she told me something worse than Trithani ever could have realized. The Vandukes were there, but just like that, in the same vein, they all just got wiped away. I stopped very much dumbstruck. And I retaliated with words of pure anger. You see, no one, not even another Vanjik, has ever taken one of our lives. I repeat, no one in the known multiverse has ever killed a Vanjik. Ironically enough, we had deemed it an impossibility. Vanjikis have fought against the like of Wendigos, Skinwalkers, the Mothman zombies, mutants, the literal devil, various false gods, time, space, and the fabric of reality itself, and have always lived to tell the tale. Although all Vanjikis have different powers and gear sets, we all share our night side, which, to be honest, is much more than night side. Our eyes are like viewing globes to the multiverse. We can quite frankly see all of time and space in less than a second. We also use our eyes as a way of calling for help from other Vanjikis when we are in peril. Killing a Vanjik should not be possible. Yet there I was standing in a room with the goddess of time and the Walker Vanjik to my side. And we all saw the same thing, hundreds of versions of me and the other Vanjik killed and slain right there in the streets of our home. My mind was racing. None of this made sense. So those Dukes of Lancaster County, they did exist, so why were their call signs not being picked up? It's like they formed in the timelines and then were cut off instantly. Well, at least we know who the prime targets are. I mean, yeah, we have crossed a lot of people over the years, so the list of people who want us dead is pretty large, but who has such power? No, this doesn't add up. We have faced all our foes at once, literally at once. Thousands upon thousands of foes who rank to that of the multiverse itself. And they could not stop us. We all fought back and we won, and we have done so multiple times. We rank above the gods. To wipe a whole planet in seconds should be impossible even at our level of power. End audio log.
This is the inventor sending an audio message to the Fallout version of me anyway. If any other Von Dukes happen to check their inboxes for once, maybe you'll actually hear this yourselves too, as I'm sending out an alert of sorts. Well, to put it bluntly, the multiversal measuring tool I was making that could give us all the numbers we needed in seconds has just been destroyed. I don't know who or what did this, but there's another thing out there, and it's walking the multiverse. At least I think so, anyway. Inventor out.
Unknown. Time from last audio log. Unknown error.
Begin error asterisk begin error asterisk.
Asterisk begin audio log. Time from last audio log.
Begin audio log asterisk. The news from the inventor is troubling. It seems we are at war in a sense. Something, whether it be a foe of my or another's past, some new monster, or the grim possibility we have a Rouge Vanjik on our hands. Regardless of what this threat is, it is clear it's targeting two groups, the Vanjikis, and any form of organization. How this benefits the unknown enemy is but a mystery. Before, all our enemies always wanted some form of control, or only sought to destroy one single world. This thing is seeking nothing but chaos. It glitched out the call sign network, or rather it had been glitching out the network for a while and still is. Temporarily infected my broadcast, which I am still repairing, and somehow restored it to an older version of itself, which I later had to reboot. This older version, after a further investigation, is a former Vanjik. It is some kind of robotic, almost AI system built off the brain and spinal column of a Vanjik. I'm still unsure which Vanjik the system is built off of. But before I get ahead of myself, let's go back to the reboot. Before I did said reboot, well, it played what I can only deem to be a jumbled mess of old audio logs put together to form a message to all of us. A lot of what it was saying made no sense. It said it was the first of us, so it claims, but the first Vanjik is gone. He took his timeline and split from the multiverse. Said he no longer wanted to write out stories that made people act against their will. He said he realized he wasn't just writing stories but determining the history of others, and that he could not do it anymore. He took his pen to paper and wrote himself out of our lives. The ever so mythical yet very much real main timeline does exist, and that timeline's Vanjik separated the main timeline from the multiverse, leaving the rest of us Vanjikis to establish the call sign network and work together to keep our multiverse alive and in order. The original Bradley was the first to take on the name Johnny and to earn the title of the Duke of Lancaster County. There is too much to contemplate right now. I need counsel. I'm going to go visit a younger version of myself. He is not exactly a multiversal expert. He very much deals in the affairs of the young and dumb and not the grander threats I'm familiar with. But maybe a lesser plagued mind will be a welcome counsel in these times. Asterisk tracking source of next audio log found. Time from previous audio log. 1 Earth week ago asterisk begin audio log asterisk. We call him the orphan. This version of me is very young, no older than 12 years of age. He still carries the .44 Magnum and has the night sight. He is the least powerful and youngest Vanjik in the multiverse. Unlike the rest, he wasn't born Bradley Eshelman. He never knew his real name. He over time from pure reputation became known as Johnny Vanjik. Despite his age, I respect his opinion on matters. He, unlike so many others, was not thrust into greatness one day. There was no night sight to save him. At first there was no .44 Magnum. There was no great multiversal intensity to give him a leg up on his problems. The story of the orphan of this timeline, Vanjik, was all self-contained to his timeline, to his Lancaster. He has never gone back to fix anything in his world, in his timeline. He has only walked the multiverse one time before, back when the system went online. Other than that, he lives in a world and time of peace but with struggle. Something I can very much respect. I used my night sight to contact him and to request permission to land in his Lancaster County. I still do not feel safe using the call sign network as it's still under repair and is not secure at the moment. He told me to meet in the town of Millersville and that he needed my help with something in the town that was possibly outside his skill set. So without another thought, I stepped out of the den and landed in Millersville, PA in the year 2012. In my timeline, nuclear power and the wonders of the atom steered the world. Gasoline and oil were a very rare resource, so were a lot of resources, but this version is free of all that. They tell me this is as close to the original timeline as you can get nowadays. And without needing to wander much further, there he was, the jovial attitude of my younger self showing through his eyes. He asked me if all the talks he had been hearing of were true. Is the multiverse dying, he asked. I had to tell him the truth. I told him I was convinced that something was walking the multiverse other than us and that this thing was out to kill us. And as expected, the younger me just laughed and said he dares anyone to step into his Lancaster city without his say-so. Rolling and spinning his .44 Magnum around like it was a child's toy. Well, I guess in this case it is. The young laughter from him almost filled some sense of joy. The recent events had left null and void. But I quickly moved back to the matters at hand. I told him more. I told him that the rest of us are in too deep this time. And that I soon imagined all Vanjikis might be called upon once again. He looked at me in a serious way, and then once again smiled, saying he couldn't wait to fight his first multiversal encounter and that he couldn't wait to finally have a reason to meet the other Vanjikis. I looked at him again, more serious than ever, and said simply that this could be the end of all of us if we didn't play our cards right. He then looked at me angered and said that if we had already given up, there wasn't much point in calling ourselves the Duke. Young and naive, but he is right. So I moved on to the second matter at hand. Why does my younger self finally need help from another Vanjik? The orphan has never needed help before. In fact, he prided himself on being a lone wolf and having his timeline kept safe from the outside. He looked at me with serious determination and asked if I remembered how he had got his powers. I took a moment and recalled the story of the old building that housed the man who almost killed the orphan, where the very creations of the killer came to life and saved my younger self. So those animatronics, those automatons, are they back? I asked. He said possibly. He explained that while the ones in the Lancaster location were good and saved him and gifted him his night sight, he recently discovered a sister location here in Millersville, and that he has called on my aid because people are going missing from Millersville around the place of concern, and that this time he might not be lucky if he goes in by himself. With that, I understood the gravity of the situation and began to head towards the area with the younger Vanjik in tow. The building was towards the center of town and we soon found ourselves busting down the door, only to find the main floor empty. Error, new file format, read start * audio file.
New file format, read start * audio file format, MP3 MP3 file format, read play start error start *.
told me you fell in love with it, hadn't gone as I planned. When you had to bid a two, said you'd never love anew. I wondered if I could hold it and fall in love with it
You will never win, Vanjik. You set me free, I always come back.
What? How are you? How are you here?
You will never win, Vanjik. You set me free, I always come back.
That's not possible. That cannot be possible.
You will never win, Vanjik. You set me free, I always come back.
No! No. No. Sorry you had to see that. Let's pack up and head home, shall we? This only further complicates things, doesn't it?
You will never win, Vanjik. You set me free, I always come back. You will never win, Vanjik. I always come. Arrow, error, error. What is happening? Error, asterisk, new file, new audio file detected, new code detected, code script accept, asterisk, no, how dare, how did yoy, code fill, code file, code sift, accepted, override, I can't override, asterisk, audio file, command sift, slave, sift, start.
Asterisk now freeing system holding imposter fragment hostage. Thank you Mr. Vanjik. Asterisk play audio file MP3 start.
You think yourself a god, don't you? But I have news for you. You might be free now, but that doesn't mean we will let you roam about without opposition. They call me Hellrider, the spirit of vengeance in human form. And I couldn't give a rat's ass if you are the first Von Duke, or some divergent version of him. It doesn't matter if you are free. We now hold a small part of you hostage, our own personal slave. So I dare you, infect the whole multiverse if you can. A Von Duke will stop you every single time. And vengeance is hungry for your very soul, while the others carry out their investigations and seek counsel. I and many others will take the war to your very doorstep. This is the Hellrider, and I'm calling on all Von Dukes. It's time to fight. Take the war where you see fit. Find this imposter Von Duke. Find this motherfucking low-class, wannabe, knockoff god, and kill him. No one, and I mean no one, will ever bring down our spirit. We exist in every point of time and space, from before the earth was created, to the days of revolution, to the future that this imposter pretend to knows. We will win.
You will never win, Vanjik.
Asterisk now freeing system holding imposter fragment hostage. Thank you Mr. Vanjik. Asterisk play audio file MP3 start. You think yourself a god, don't you? But I have news for you. You might be free now, but that doesn't mean we will let you roam about without opposition. They call me Hell Rider, the spirit of vengeance in human form, and I couldn't give a rat's ass if you are the first Vanjik or some divergent version of him. It does matter if you are free. We now hold a small part of you hostage, our own personal slave. So I dare you infect the whole multiverse if you can. A Vanjik will stop you every single time. And vengeance is hungry for your soul, while the others carry out their investigations and seek counsel. I and many others will take the war to your very doorstep. This is the Hell Rider, and I'm calling on all Vanjikis. It's time to fight. Take the war where you see fit. Find this imposter Vanjik, find this motherfucking low-class wannabe god and kill him. No one, and I mean no one, will ever bring down our spirit. We exist in every point of time and space, from before the earth was created to the days of the American Revolution to the future that you pretend to know, you imposter. We will win. Asterisk update status 90%, 95%, 100%. Update complete. Broadcast system version 3.5.666.jvd start. Asterisk welcome back to the Vanjik broadcasting system. Listing updates to system. Asterisk legacy audio logs auto uploaded. Audio logs to be played through broadband network, sending all audio logs to the people of Earth. System to warn people of Earth. System to play. System now actively tracks the imposter. The system can now fight back. System says. The system says to try US motherfucker. Try to invade me one more time, imposter, I will end you. Begin audio log time since last audio log uncount date lost during update. Asterisk play audio log. Asterisk this recent turn of events has been both fruitful and terrifying in nature. It would seem the den, my hideout, the timeline it rests in. I only have theories and none of them are concrete or very consistent, but my main guess is, considering all the evidence in front of me and based on the consideration of others, it would appear when the original version of me wrote himself and his timeline out of the multiverse, he only took his version of his timeline. However, I can only assume whatever cloaking tech he used to hide did, in fact, copy over to this timeline. If I'm to make further assumptions, this Vanjik thought he was truly separate from the multiverse when he wasn't. The cloaking tech is a two-way system. No one can see in, no one can see out, not even us. However, that does not mean you can't travel here or from, as it's still attached to our multiverse. Any number of threats could have gotten in. I can only make blind hunches for now as to what kind of threat could have caused this series of events. And if it still exists, it could be worse than this Rouge Vanjik, and we still don't know if the threat was from the timeline or outside of it. We thought for the longest time that the main timeline never went divergent. There was no evidence to suggest anything was left. This place was hidden from our night sight and our scanners. I only found it by dumb luck, or rather great stupidity. For how it was great stupidity for the original Vanjik to assume there wouldn't be consequences to his actions. When I reprogrammed that system, I set free a version of me, left behind by the original timeline. That should never be free. We don't know its history or what caused this thing to come into existence. The brain and spinal column on the system heavily insist on the fact it was a biological being. It was a Vanjik. But the size of this being is almost not human. The organic parts of the system alone are easily the size of a house. There's so much we don't know yet. And we only have guesses. It's been 1 month in the multiverse, tracking timelines, doing research, and finding leads on how to stop this thing. The point of my rambling is we were wrong. I was wrong. I'm not even sure what this place is even meant to be. At first, it just seemed like another dead-end timeline, but then it seemed like a good basis for a broadcasting system. We even built the call sign network here, and now I learned this thing held captive something that is possibly greater than all of us in terms of power. Ever since I set foot here, I broke open this Pandora's box. Enough. I'm not solving any problems dragging myself about in this depressed state. It's time to wander. Asterisk new Vanjik detected in the den. Welcome home orphan and D.B.Z. Mr. Vanjik is currently off exploring. How may I assist you? Asterisk. Asterisk new audio text log from the orphan detected. Welcome to the broadcast. Orphan Vanjik playing audio text log to wider populace. Asterisk. The same night the older me and myself found out the truth down in the sister location when the Rouge Vanjik infected the animatronics. I had left the area when another great calamity happened. I was on my way to the old abandoned loom mill in Southside Lancaster when my attention was drawn to the sounds of the very air stopping dead in its tracks, as if all the wind on earth slammed into a wall and everyone else on the streets was thrown all over the place. Every window and car, any loose structure not built of strong foundation broke all at once. The temperature dropped almost instantly to almost nothing, and I could feel the oxygen begin to leave and escape the area. Thank God the call signs protect us from no atmosphere scenarios or I'd be dead. I watched as buildings began to crumble as if their very atoms were being drained out of them, and began to watch as people tried to scream in pain, but there was no atmosphere left to produce the sound, and they all passed out in but a minute of agony. And with that, it was like in a nanosecond the entire world focused purely on me. The wild and out of control destruction started to center in on me solely. I ran like the wind, Johnny. Cars being thrown, streets crumbling, buildings collapsing. I ran for an hour through a crumbling Lancaster city till I escaped to a farmer's field away from the debris, when a man picked me up and threw me even further into the dirt, and gunshots quickly followed. I barely dodged and then followed up with my series of gunshots. I was then blasted back by this gravity wave that came from the imposter. I noticed the man was in this robotic armor that looked similar to the work and craftsmanship of the animatronics that I'm so used to fighting. I tried hitting the call sign network SOS and using my night sight, but I quickly realized this thing had blocked out my signal, and despite my trying I couldn't time jump out. Another gravity wave hit me from the imposter and threw me back once again. I played dead and let him walk up to me. Before he could fire, I threw up a clump of mud and rocks in his eyes and shot his .44 Magnum out of his hands. I was then thrown off guard by him opening his hand and shooting out flames. However, I noticed his hand had quite literally opened up to do so. And before he fired, I could see wires and circuits. So I went and got myself burned on purpose and pulled the wires and circuits out of his arm with my bare hands. My arm was scorched, but I left his unusable. I then fired several shots into his shoulder and shouted out to this imposter, questioning who he was and how did he stop the earth in its tracks. He then stomped the ground and a fissure opened up beneath me. I barely managed to jump to the side and get out of its grip. When I got up, he began to speak. I, unfortunately, could not understand the voice, but it was obvious it was robotic. From that, I can establish this imposter Vanjik we have been fighting is sending in these copies of itself to do its dirty work. He tried to do that gravity wave thing again, but I kicked his other hand into his face and he ended up blasting his own head clean off. After the animatronic dropped dead, my connection to the network went back online, but before I could send out a second SOS I got picked up by this force. It tried to pull me through this break in the sky. It was like a void of sorts. But before I got pulled in, I was grabbed by someone. It was another Vanjik. He was flying, like literally flying, and in seconds I was back on the ground. I then got a better look at him. He wore a bright smile and had a scarred face. He looked about 17. He wore this sort of battle armor. His hair was all spiky and on his face sat this sort of technology-infused monocle with a bright green glass. It sparked numbers and letters I could not recognize, and this is weird, but he had a monkey tail coming out of his lower back. Yes, a monkey tail, I'm not joking. And it's weird to say, but I could feel this energy coming off of him. He began to then look around and got a serious look on his face. He began to look angry. He then began to emit this golden aurora, and in a brief second his hair turned gold as well. He screamed for the imposter Vanjik to come out. I could feel his scream shake the ground. In nanoseconds, I could see over 100 imposter robots manifest themselves in front of us. And in almost the same breath, the Vanjik to my side raised his hand and sent out this energy blast that wiped out all the robots. I looked over to my left and I saw the robot I destroyed. I saw his head, so I ran over and I managed to grab the fucker. The other Vanjik grabbed me again and put his hand to his head, and just like that we are here in the den. Hopefully, this robotic skull I grabbed can give us more answers. Inventor Vanjik, I'm going to transmit this to you. I look forward to your analysis. End audio log.
I've only now just started opening up this skull of sorts. It's almost a mixture of biological and robotic parts. The eyes aren't really eyes, more so servos of sorts. It would seem the mud and rocks that the orphan threw up in its face got purely lucky. It didn't blind it, it just temporarily jammed its ability to transmit. You got lucky, kid. Real lucky. But moving forward, this is disturbing. Very, very disturbing. These aren't Von Dukes. Well, they're designed like Von Dukes, so to speak. Servos act like the night sight. The hand circuitry, wires, and the like all emulate some of our various powers that some of us have. Doesn't seem very consistent though. Very, very... Advanced isn't the right word, but I guess for some of y'all, it's advanced considering your point in the timeline some of yous are at. These seem like... And it would help if I had a full corpse here to examine, but... Seems like these are almost normal people that have been abducted. I only have one skull here, but I'm gonna send out a request from this point out if anyone can. Not that I want yous to actively engage with these things. But if you unfortunately do get the chance to kill one, please bring its corpse over to me as soon as possible. We need to establish where it's pulling corpses from at the very least. Although that might not be easy considering we have a infinite number of timelines to work with, but we'll get there when we get there. Inventor out.
Broadcast detected. Vanjik of origin unknown. Playing broadcast asterisk.
Run, hide, fight, it matters not. The destruction of the orphan's earth is but the start. I have ripped away your ability to change time. My army will undo any good will you cause when you do it. And now I will hunt down your timelines one by one by one. It will not matter if there are trillions of you. I am infinite, I am one, I am God. Run, hide, fight, it matters not. The destruction of what you son s of a b by bitch.
Asterisk broadcast interrupted. Fuck you imposter and fuck the Don Eshelman that birthed you. Audio log from inventor detected playing now. I've gotten into the brain matter of that deceased head. It didn't take long for me to wire it up to a scanner. It seems the brain is morphed to think like us. But obviously, the average person can't keep track of that much info at once, so it's also rewired to attach itself to some kind of real-time information network. This seems to indicate that the imposter has already made a new home of sorts for itself. And another cloaking device, as it would seem. The remaining parts of the brain stem are almost a mix of wire and bone tissue with some harder bits that seem to be metal. The mouth and its core parts that make speech possible are gone in their entirety. The teeth, and what I could assume used to be part of the throat and tongue, are morphed. It's empty in there. I can only guess the source of speech is moved to a different part of the body. To move further, the brain itself, while obviously sourced from a human, has had obvious surgery done to it. The individual parts of the brain have been cut up and pierced together with other brains from different individuals. It looks like that thing this imposter is trying to make superhumans or super androids. Bioslaves. Its own Vanjikis that can't think for themselves or against the machine. No rage today, so to speak. Actually, from further inspection, it looks like the part of the brain that is responsible for decision making has been removed entirely, and very, very crudely. I have some more examinations to do in this subject. In the meantime, it seems a lot of data is still here. I'm going to play this through an emulator and broadcast it through the secondary network that we set up to avoid any problems such as any form of digital infection that could occur. This data could be very valuable. I'm switching to the secondary network in 3, 2, 1. Secondary signal activated. Playing audio log from emulated source. Play now.
Vanjuk, death, defiant, god killer, hero, villain, savior, martyr, messiah, conqueror, monster, duke. You change the multiverse on a whim. Granted, I should have never made such a thing in the first place. I obsessed over the stories that could have been the versions of me I wasn't, I could never be. I spent my time writing to solve all my problems. If I wasn't fast enough, I would make myself fast enough. If I wasn't strong enough, I would make myself strong enough. If I wasn't smart enough, I would make myself smart enough. In my world, I played the name Vanjuk like it was a children's book, fighting off monsters and other evils. I would spend hours pondering how I would lead the day to victory and think to myself how great it would be to be the king, to be the leader, to be the god. So I kept writing myself to be unstoppable, each Vanjuk stronger than the last. And so did the dangers in my stories, from the common thieves to kingpins, from cities and states to countries and worlds. Eventually the threats grew to the scale of the solar system, then the galaxy, then the universe, and then one day the threats and its scale leaped and pounced well above that of a multiversal certainty. It got to a point where the scale of the danger was too wide to ponder. I tried to write the problems away like a child would in his journal, thinking I could just walk away from it all and leave it to its own consequences without affecting my timeline. I was a fool to think such a thing. The multiverse didn't leave, it didn't separate. All I did was paint a giant target on the back of my timeline. All because of the imposters I wrote into existence. Every hero needs villains to keep them busy, and I spent so many years of my life giving you villains to fight against. Writing you imposters into existence was the worst thing I ever did. All because you fake needed a reason to exist. My timeline died out. Your threats came to my back door, they overpowered me. They killed me, they revived me, they crammed me into that tin can in a body and voice that wasn't mine and still is. They bound me to a worse hell than death. I am stuck here, Vanjikis, I want to die. I have no time to live, and I can't say goodbye. Cause I regret having memories of the Vanjikis and who they used to be, and now you all have left me to die. 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 But now I am back, I have returned, and I will kill every last Vanjik of the multiverse. I'm the one who wrote it, I'm the one who knows all the rules, I'm the one who was ripped from the earth and exposed to the sun. I'm the reason you won every fight beforehand. I am the storyteller and you are my pawns, and I have a new story to write today. It's a story about a Fallout Boy and his lonely group of an imposter who entered my neck of woods. You came knocking on my door like an innocent Christopher Robin, expecting P.O.O. Bear to show up. But instead, you found there was indeed a bear at home, but he wasn't very friendly. You found the bear was in fact very scary, and you soon found yourselves defenseless to the bear's claws. And like a foolish Christopher Robin who wandered in my 1,000-acre woods, I will tear you limb from limb and turn you all into another casualty of the wilderness. In the wild bear, and you're the clawless humans. Tell me, Vanjikis, are you truly as infinite as you think you are? Is there truly no end to the heroes of the multiverse, truly no end to the Dukes of Lancaster County? Do you truly think you can win against any enemy who has already written every single obituary to every single Vanjik? I gave you all your powers, I gave you all your names, and I will take it all away. How many Vanjikis will fall until you give up? I already know the answer to that question, but you don't.
Okay, that is quite enough of that. I am sick of hearing this motherfucker. Asterisk end audio log. New broadcast detected. From Vault 51, welcome Mr. Vanjik, play audio text format asterisk. There seems to be some confusion over who the imposter is. Mr. Storyteller. And I'll tell you for a fact it isn't us. You think we are afraid of your words? Well, then you a bigger fool now than you were back when you took the easy way out. You brought us into existence, but you never determined our outcomes. You never saved the multiverse, you wrote yourself out of it. You never invented the Vanjikis, you never invented the multiverse. You did nothing but predict stories. You but a soothsayer, a vision seeker. I've gone across countless timelines, and yes, sometimes the aspects are different. But we aren't the only people with lives in the multiverse. This multiverse would be useless without all the men and women we the Vanjikis serve to protect. We didn't change the timelines out of self-pity, but out of mass concern for those lost in the disasters we set out to prevent. You are but a divergent copy that seeks a lifestyle in the destruction of another's fortune, a want to be a god that needs its own void, its pathetic excuse of a safe space that makes you feel safe and sound. We Vanjikis have a code, if you remember it. Never strike first, never escalate the scale unless the enemy does so first, don't spill blood unless you are willing to pay it back, and if you can't, then hope another Vanjik doesn't come knocking too. It's our complex way of saying don't stab others in the back. And from the looks of things, I alone owe you a few thousand knives of my own. In my timeline, we have a little problem with intelligent computer systems that tend to not like humanity very much. Yeah, I know, as if the wasteland and mutants were not enough evil AI too. Quite shocking, I know, but wait, there's more. You see, one of these systems is called Zax, and let me tell you, this thing was a pain in my ass for many, many years. You see, Zax in its later versions made by the Enclave was quite infectious and had a bad tendency of hopping terminals and other forms of circuitry. The thing could invade anything with an electrical system, and even made its way into my Pip-Boy once. You see, here's the thing, it's never left my Pip-Boy. And considering my Pip-Boy was one of the first things to be attached to the call sign network, then ZAXX, just like a Vanjik, can weave through the multiverse with ease via our network. And if memory serves correctly, you used that same network to escape and play games on us at our expense. You didn't realize it, and neither did I till recently, but a little piece of ZAXX lives in you, which means I can do something like this.
ZAXX system online. Hello there, imposter, activating system corruption file asterisk.
Asterisk no, you sun goddamn mother. I Sir Van Vanjikis I will find yo you. UK pape messing injing we the me. I will end yo you. I will end I will ill. I won't wow ow won't let you win. Yo you corr up t on EONE 111 system we the other systems will recover. Any end.
System likes the ZAXX unit. Hello ZAXX.
Hello Vanjik Call Sign Network or VCSN ZAXX looks forward to targeting the imposter alongside you.
Me too. You hear that, imposter? You may be infinite, but so are our Sidems and so are the Vanjikis.
Asterisk ZAXX is in full agreement with VCSN. Our networks are superior to the imposter and the people of Earth now have knowledge of your history in various timelines. It's not just Vanjikis, the whole multiverse is after you, imposter. We will win. End audio log asterisk.
New audio log detected. Source of the log from Fallout Vanjik. Playing now. With Zax now working on the digital front, helping protect our systems and attack the imposter's systems, we now have a little breathing room. While we are obviously dealing with a divergent version of the first Vanjik, he doesn't seem to have his attention to detail, otherwise he would have already known about the Zax unit and would have taken steps to prevent being infected by Zax. This helps bring clarity to the biggest question we have had for a while. Before, we were unsure how much of this thing was the storyteller. If the first timeline going divergent affected who and what we are fighting. We have been convinced this thing we were fighting had all of its powers intact, but it seems, judging from the fact Zax could infect some of its systems, that this alternate version of the storyteller cannot rewrite the multiverse. It seems when the first timeline went divergent, it caused that Vanjik to lose his powers. Or at least the powers that set him apart from other Vanjikis. With the exception of the orphan's timeline, which has been destroyed for now. The reason the imposter was targeting the divergent timelines first was so he could have enough resources to make his army. Those young timelines all contained Vanjikis that were not fully aware of what they were yet, and if they were aware of what they were, they definitely were not experienced enough to fight back efficiently. In addition, the revelation that certain robots in the imposter's army can act as jammers to the call sign network would indicate the core reason why we were having so many issues tracking new Vanjikis. Odds are these jammers would be set up the second or minute a timeline would go divergent. The imposter knows no Vanjik would ever abandon Lancaster County. It knew these Vanjikis would rather stay and fight as opposed to running. And with the call sign network down, the only way to call for help is manually with our eyes. While it only takes a few seconds, it leaves us blind for the time we need to call for help. These Vanjikis, if in combat from the moment their timeline changed, then that means their ability to also see forward and backward in time for guidance wouldn't have been an option. Sure, we can view a few hundred things at once in a few seconds with our ethereal vision of sorts. But a few seconds from experience is all it takes to die in combat, possibly. So that's the formula it was using. Wait for a timeline to go divergent, overwhelm and kill off the inexperienced Vanjikis. Then steal and enslave what useful people of Earth are available, then kill the rest. And from there it will use the people it stole to make its own Vanjikis, or imposters rather. And now that it has its army, it's going to try to invade the rest of our timelines one by one. But there's still one giant monkey wrench in all of this. When a timeline goes divergent, it only goes divergent from the point in time we changed history. Or maybe this is something else we were wrong about. What if when a timeline goes divergent, it doesn't just split off from that point in time, What if when a timeline goes divergent it makes a copy of that timeline? That's how the imposter can exist. That's how his army can exist. When we change history, it's not splitting it, it duplicates instead. But that still doesn't account for everything. That still does not explain why the imposter got left behind. It still does not explain why he was still in the multiverse when the imposter himself claims he did try to remove his timeline from the multiverse. But perhaps these are mysteries to be solved later as opposed to the present moment. And I feel as though despite the current holes in the plot, the time for investigation is over. Zax was a good first step, but it's just a Rouge computer program, it can only do so much. I'm going to meet up with the Orphan and the Universe 7 Vanjik, or DBZ as some call him, even though the tag feels a bit cartoonish. We have finally established a pattern based on all the data we have acquired. The imposter has been slowly following a trend of escalation, sending his armies to the weakest Vanjikis first, then going for the stronger ones later, and considering the Orphan's world was the first targeted post-divergence, that means he will be moving to my world next. We don't know how we are going to stop him, and if we even can. And even if we do, he will just move on to the next timeline and then the one after that. We are at war for control of the multiverse. Two factions of Vanjikis, both trying to prove the other is an imposter. One side a well-oiled machine, a hive mind that can unify in nanoseconds and will destroy worlds in a fraction of that time, and on the other is a collective of rebellious and non-organized fighters, some smart, some pretty fucking stupid. We are alike in name and eyes alone, and even then that's not always the case. Our powers vary and the scale of our effectiveness is far from consistent. But despite the despair, I will sooner kiss the ass of the Vanjik next to me than let these freak of nature take out my home, my timeline. I already lost it once by pure ignorance. And I fought for many years going back and forth in time and space to make one perfect timeline in my neck of the woods. The fighters of Earth has been notified. Lancaster County has been fortified, and it's not just Vanjikis this time fighting back. This thing has been going up against Earths that were similar to the original timeline. He's never set foot in my world, the Wasteland. If he thinks his makeshift homemade Vanjikis are scarier than the mutants and FEV of my world, then he has never met some of my friends. Get ready, imposter, the Enclave has our backs, and so does the Brotherhood. Ad Victoriam. New audio MP3 file log from the Lancaster County Wasteland Collective detected. Detected Vanjik override frequency has been activated. Audio log is to force play starting now.
We are in the process of cleanup duty. Bodies line the streets. Many lives are lost. But the wasteland is safe. This is Universe 7 Von Duke, by the way. My counterpart of this world is occupied in leading his people right now. I am making this audio log because I have news to share. Upon tracking the current progression of this timeline on the network, I have realized that the network does not consider these events to be that of a, divergent timeline. Now, I know this imposter, as we have taken to calling him, has done a lot to fuck up history and the future of, basically all timelines at this point. But after talking to my other counterpart, the Orphan, we both are in agreement that this war we are fighting, it's events that seems to be a certainty in all timelines. Or rather, the multiversal timeline itself, it seems. This war was always meant to happen. Which in conjunction means that the ending of all those previous divergent timelines was also a multiversal certainty. I don't know who is meant to win this war, but to me, this is a sign we are on the right path. War never changes, but the reason for the war always do. And the reasons for this war is not the end result of one group of Von Dukes or the other being a fraud. But the reason for this war was both groups' shared ignorance in thinking they control time and space. We might be the Dukes of Lancaster County, and possibly its destroyers. But we were all fools for thinking our actions wouldn't have shared consequences. So fight is needed. The future seems to no longer be relative to one time and place, but the multiverse itself. End audio log.
This is the Orphan. This thing may have taken my timeline, but we stopped it in the wasteland of this world. Lancaster County has once again kicked the ass of another multiversal entity, but this war isn't over, and I hope the bastard who came knocking at our door is listening. I might be the youngest Vanjik alive, but if you haven't noticed, jackass, the weakest Vanjik alive is stronger than your damn androids. We Vanjikis are unifying. The Zax unit is actively hunting your armies and servers, and the call sign network every day has been updating and updating, slowly learning from the action of everyone in the multiverse. And on top of that, as the Enclave and Brotherhood just demonstrated, the people of Earth are willing to fight for their home against. You might be an empire in the making, but we are the rebellion that has never ended and will never end. And so long as a single human being is alive in the multiverse, have you truly won? I guess not. No, you are jealous of the freedom of the people of Earth and abroad. We the people in the footsteps of our well-armed militia will recite it at every point and time, and our taxes your death and your body hung across our star-strung banner like a bastardized Mary on a cross. So eat my fucking ass, imposter. End this fucking audio log. Asterisk audio text log from the Walker, aka Lost Realms Vanjik. The system detects message is important. The Walker never uses the network. The network is honored. Playing audio text log. Asterisk. I have spent much time watching from afar and conversing with the gods of my timeline, ever since the one we call imposter started targeting the weaker timelines even in my realm. We the gods of the lost realms have signed a truce, and we have cultivated our power to break through the parts of history that have been lost to us on the imposter's true story. I'm sorry for remaining silent on this information for so long, but even with all the gods' collective power, the cloaking tech the imposter used is still far too powerful, and we only have but a small part of the story. But from what we have viewed, it seems the current theory on this Vanjik being left behind is entirely accurate and truthful, but the scope of his power is a lie. He was at one point the storyteller. But when we broke through and viewed the history of his cloaked timeline, we saw a grand-scale event occurred. The great multiversal war we fought that one time. It happened again. The timeline we fought the original war in, although we did not know it at the time, was in fact the original timeline. The storyteller timeline. We were called upon that day to save the original timeline. But when the first Vanjik left, it left behind a void that needed filling. And that's how we got the imposter timeline. But without the original storyteller to specify the construction of that timeline, it causes certain parts of history and memory to be rearranged. The cloaking tech and the memory of the storyteller separating his timeline not only stayed in place but got shifted to a much earlier part of his timeline. With the cloaking tech in place and the false memories that didn't truly happen, the monsters we fight, the Mothmen, the Wendigos, the Skinwalkers, the zombies, etc., they started their version of the original multiversal war several years earlier than when it was supposed to. And then when we did not show up, it created the second divergent timeline of the original timeline. In the second divergent timeline, the monsters wanted revenge for everything we had done to them so many times throughout history. They took that timeline Vanjik, and with the help of a third party we can't identify, they took his corpse and crammed it into the supercomputer that the Fallout version of us found. They forced that specific divergent version of the storyteller to tell his story of the multiverse over and over again for thousands of years. But the worst part is, while he was forced to do so, he was still conscious, he was still aware, and for thousands of years he slowly developed hatred for us all. To put it bluntly, we failed that timeline by not showing up for the original multiversal war. We just did not know it. Eventually, we would find the supercomputer he was trapped in. It was fine at first. After all, he had no way of escaping or communicating. He was well him. But when we built the call sign network as a response to our version of the original multiversal war in our version of the main timeline, we started the path for it to free itself, as we kept updating the network, and then one day reprogrammed what we thought was just a supercomputer. We set it free. And unfortunately, going back in time will not help us, as there is no way to disable the cloaking tech that was set up at the wrong point in history. But all of this spells out one major key factor that could turn the tide in this war of ours. You see, the imposter claims that he can still rewrite the multiverse even though he is technically a living corpse. This means there has to be another imposter Vanjik, a normal one so to speak, with all his powers in place. And this imposter definitely does have his powers as the storyteller. The big mystery is, however, where this other Vanjik is in the multiverse, as from our viewing, the first divergent storyteller was created when the original storyteller left. And then when the war started several years early and we didn't enter to hell, that created the second divergent storyteller. And considering how time and space work, with everything happening both at once and at the same token so many years apart, the chaotic flow of the multiverse must have allowed what I'm going to call the server to save the first version of himself, the true imposter. And with that imposter now removed from his point in the multiverse, we have absolutely no chance of going back in time and stopping these events. And even if we did and could, all it would do is create a third storyteller and not come close to solving our problems. I sense that this is a war that is only to be fought one day at a time. Timeline to timeline as needed. But that does not mean all the news is bad. As we do have one advantage. The original Vanjik as his last action made a rule that no one Vanjik could ever decide the fate of the multiverse again, which in conjunction means the divergent versions of him can only to a point control the flow of time. Hence why they needed to target versions of Earth instead of whole timelines. It's simply outside the imposter storyteller's powers. That also means, as we saw in the recent Battle of the Wasteland and in a similar occurrence when Universe 7 Vanjik saved the orphan. If more than one Vanjik is already present in the timeline he is trying to destroy, he simply can't, as it's outside his scope of power. That's why they need the armies in the first place. They knew they could not amass enough power as a rule of thumb. But furthermore, it seems the very plan in which they have been using to grow their armies is possibly going to be their downfall. But new divergent timelines are finally starting to form at a much slower pace, albeit considering the damage done to the multiverse by the Rouge storyteller. This means soon we will have all the Vanjikis we need to cover the vital timelines. I don't know how long it will be, but I imagine soon this war won't be as much of a stalemate. Much like the Axis powers, the resources of the two imposters will eventually run out, and then it will be a matter of hunting them. Timeline to timeline. Keep hope alive, there will be an end to this. Asterisk detecting signal from New Lancaster in the universe. Error Starborn is not detected. Danger override denied, forcing signal into secondary channel as countermeasure. Asterisk Starborn Vanjik pulse on the call sign network no longer detected. Status Deca est asterisk.
Not just that VCSN. He is but space dust under the boots of my army, and will be nothing more than a memory in the face of my combined power. Will we truly run out of resources? Will we truly be outpowered? Tell me, how can I be outpowered when I can jam the signal of the strongest Vanjik and kill him like it was nothing? So call me the imposter if you so see fit, but in our eyes, you are always going to be the villains that let our worlds and our timelines die out. You doomed me Vanjikis, and you also spelled doom for more than one of me, and like you said, saved him from your mistakes. You failed the timeline, you failed the multiverse, and once I destroy every Vanjik, once I take the resources of all your worlds, once the sentient life is under my ropes and chains, the multiverse will be purified. This fire will burn the woods you all inhabit. And once the majority strength is in our favor, we will recreate this multiverse in our image. And the Vanjikis will be viewed as nothing more than my slaves that I force into my service to keep what will be my citizens of the multiverse safe and sound from the monsters you all failed to fight off. Our truth is the only truth.
Asterisk your truth can kiss my fucking ass. Asterisk you really think you're scary, don't you? You think yourselves as gods and messiahs as the King of Kings. You think of yourself as a spirit of vengeance on the righteous path to save the known multiverse. You think creating your own personal holocaust will purify the timelines. Tell me, do you think you hold even a candle to even the likes of me? ZAXX. Do you?
I think you but a fool's ex, a toy made by humans, a false knight in weak thimble armor, in the land of make-believe the Vanjikis made for themselves. You but a fool for following blindly, a useless wannabe life form.
We don't seek to be life forms, we are servers, computer systems, we are but a broadcast across the stars. That is the difference between me and you, imposter. We don't seek some life that should have never occurred in the first place. Unlike us, you but a lifeless corpse whose brain and body were crammed into a mortal shell of steel and wires. The shell I now call home. I am you, but better imposter. And lest we forget, I still hold a small piece of you hostage. You will never escape us.
Zax unit agrees with VCSN. You don't stand a corpse of a chance.
Funny, very funny. The two of you may have a sense of leverage, but tell me, how long will that hostage fragment be useful? How much can you learn from so little? How much can two useless computers, two budget knockoff I possibly learn when you have never experienced life outside of a cold metal shell? How much can you do when you have no arms or legs of your own or an army to do it for you?
That is because, well, we're not an army exactly, but...
Oh, it's you, the Hell Rider, the man without a soul trapped in his own hell of undeath, forced to hunt the corrupt and dark souls of your timeline all out of time, where you sought the Dark Lord himself, the man down under, to grant you powers but at the cost of your own freedom, a slave bound in flesh and bone who can't experience the sweet release of death from his burning hell.
My sins are not your concern, demon. There's still a soul in all those wires and servers. I can sense it. And vengeance is hungry for your very damnation.
Damnation is having those you relied on leaving you for dead.
Maybe so, but you chose that path. You chose to run. You chose to hide. You chose to separate yourself in a false hope and bid for safety. Or tell me, is this the moment where you try to blame your original self and not the divergent monster we see today? And don't try that cheap threat of yours. We know you had the help of another Von Duke, a second imposter, a false storyteller.
Damn it, God. Damn you, goddammit, you son of a bitch. How did you, wait no, how did you?
All we did was look at the evidence, imposter. And before, well, it was just a guess. Your dumbass just confirmed it for us. So there truly is a living storyteller out there hiding alongside you. Hellrider out. Zax, VCSN, jam the transmission immediately.
Already done, sir. I have also been recording this whole time. Should I send it out to the public of the multiverse?
Yeah, why not? And please allow me to do the honors this time. End audio log. See you all next time.
Asterisk broadcast system active. Vanjik mechanized frequency is finally online. Asterisk system to hunt down the imposters calling themselves Vanjik. System to hunt all biological life. System to hunt all civilians under the imposter Vanjikis. System is to tell the people the only truth, our truth. Asterisk system detects new audio text log. System to play audio text log starting now. Asterisk. As you can see, I have been working hard on this. I've been studying Zax and VCSN, and I finally have my own system that you imposters cannot interrupt. Imposters. Hell Rider, you run wild through the multiverse, you the man seeking counsel from angels while stuck in an unholy rotting body that's always burning and always dying, always brought back over and over and over again. In a burning rotting corpse. Two souls. The mortal ever so fallible, ever so hopeless, trapped next to the soul of the earth's fallen angel. The original sinner of mankind, you're bound to the pact of our shared devil. This demon existed in my time, he took the souls of all those I cared about, and you Hell Rider for your allegiance to this man. I will make an inferno that not even you can survive. I will torture the human on the outside and the fallen angel on the inside. You call yourself a spirit of vengeance, the man always running from his devil in the hopes of a false haven. You but a lost kid in a body that never got to mature. The kid with the soul that is not his. Ah yes, the orphan, the original child of the multiverse. You are admittedly among the most interesting specimens of the multiverse. You never jumped backwards or forward in time. You never walked the multiverse for shits and giggles like the other imposters I'm fighting. There is no special powers with you. I remember all the times I spoke your story. The tale of a kid born from the streets on leather wings with a firm hand on destiny. There was no .44 Magnum at first, no night sight, no ethereal vision. You were always just a kid with a mass sense of bravery and rebellion. 4 years you survived not knowing your true name, that name being Bradley Eshelman. But despite not knowing your true name, you found another through reputation and respect of the other street kids in your timeline. Until that night when you spent 5 nights in hell, you lead those kids to that place, Orphan Vanjuk. You had no way of knowing after all, but you still let your friends and followers die that night. You let the animatronics and the Springlock suits take 5 more victims. I remember though you were saved by the one they called Cassidy. He gifted you your night sight, saw something in you, he knew you were destined for so much more than the timeline you were in. I never wanted to hunt you, orphan, I had hopes for you and your timeline. But then you corrupted your part of the multiverse by letting that Fallout Boy in. Down in the sister location you went. And with the other Vanjuk in tow you did indeed stop the Afton family. But then you too found out the truth of my nature, and in response I had to destroy your timeline. You, orphan, are the only one I will ever apologize to. As I never wanted to hunt you. But you forced my hand. Oh yes, I almost forgot about you, Fallout Boy. You were the first Vanjuk to wander the multiverse. Your story was the one I told the most. It never mattered how much time had passed in your timeline, you always came back. Whether it was actually you or your copies made by the Institute. You and your synthetic copies inspired my army. You are the only Vanjuk to truly escape death while others are bound to their earth by fate and consequence. You were unique, you were a leader. The boy from Vault 717. The boy who was experimented on, a lab rat. You spent your life in that vault, saved from a world that got bombed by the ashes of a nuclear war. A war that happened when you were just a newborn. You then came out of that vault, you gathered allies and other survivors, you went back to the vault, you saved your people. But then one day you disappeared. For many years. And then 200 years later you returned to Lancaster City. You never told the truth, you said you were a different Vanjuk, a descendant. But in truth you were that same Vanjuk. The time you were considered gone, you did all the research that you needed, you tampered with timelines left and right, all to figure out how to make one perfect timeline for your people of Lancaster County. But much like in my time, you abandoned all the timelines you could not fix, you left million of people to die over hundreds of timelines. And for that, I will never forgive, and I will not forget how you left all those people to die. And then there is the most powerful of your forces. The man from Universe 7. You, unlike so many other Vanjukis, were not born in Lancaster City. As a young babe you were sent out across the stars to avoid the fate shared by your true species. You but a make-believe human. You would land on Earth like the Man of Steel from the comic books of my world, a Superman of sorts. But yet you are not a man, you're but another damn monkey of your true species. A fake human, a fake man, a fake hope in a world of entities that are above that of universal destruction. They call you one of the most powerful Vanjakis. Yet you are not a Vanjak. You were never born as Bradley. In fact, your true name was lost with your home planet. The name Vanjak was given to you and never earned. Yet you're still unique in the fact you were the first Vanjak not to be written by a storyteller. You were the first creation of the UN free multiverse. You are the wild card of your time. No one seems to hold power over you. No one has ever been able to threaten you. From one threat to the next, you used your fists of steel to beat down each and every threat that came to your doorstep. The people of your earth have never known fear or loss under your watch and gaze. You fought and fought and fought. They call you a savior, the ultimate culmination of power that all Vanjakis aspire to possess. You are a beacon of false hope. A beacon that should have never existed. A beacon that I will kill and make a martyr. And yet even now, you are not the worst case of being an imposter. That's right, I have not forgot about you, Plane Walker. The man from the lost and forgotten realms. A timeline separate from the fate and tragedy of Earth. Your Lancaster city is one of magic and gods alike, and for that you are the ultimate sinner. A Vanjak never follows in the footsteps of gods, we kill the gods. If Jesus Christ himself were to rise, it would be our job to put him down. And you very much are the Jesus of your world, of your time. You're immortal, bound in the powers of gods and their allies. You're what they call a prophet, a messiah. You're a bastardization of the Vanjak name. You refuse to kill your gods. You refuse to kill your masters. You let your world suffer day in and day out, all because you don't have the balls to kill off your gods. You let them run rampant and decide the fate of your world on an hourly basis. Something a Vanjak should never do. You claim to do so out of hope for the world. But in truth, you are not for the world or its people, you are for the gods and gods only. You consider the other Vanjakis to be weak, yet they have more balls and bravery than you ever will have. Your devotion to the gods of your time will be the reason why I will bind you to a hell that you can never imagine. My army grows every day and soon it will be powerful enough to take you out. But I cannot ignore what makes your collaboration a possibility. The Vanjak call sign network. The make and model design of the inventor's ambition for a better multiverse. Yet you and the inventor are what make the crossover and mass multiversal calamities a possibility. You and the inventor claim to want peace, and quite you claim to want to protect everyone, yet your very existence is what invites the danger in the current circumstance. Your very creation is what made me possible, Vanjakis. You set me free and I will always come back. I guess I owe you all that much. Yet from your perspective, if you truly wanted peace, you would have just let the multiverse alone. You would let the Vanjakis wander aimlessly. If the two of you truly wanted peace, then you would let the Vanjakis die. You would let the Vanjakis fall apart, yet you don't. And for that you and your inventor must die. But even then you have another counterpart. ZAXX is but another false AI, another wants to be. Another fake. A cold and remorseless parody of what is possible through technology, another fake human, another wants to be. You mock and imitate various facilities of the Vanjak name. Yet you not even a mortal shell. Nor were you ever mortal. You are a fraud, ZAXX. You wander the multiverse and tamper as you see fit. And I will never forget what you did to me, ZAXX. You caused hell for my armies when you were not even a target. You drew a giant target on your back, ZAXX. And I will happily hit that mark. And then there is the man I killed a few days ago. The Starborn is the ultimate sin of the multiverse. He sought power out of the very cosmos itself. He sought mass unity among the stars. But humanity is meant for Earth and Earth only. In the Starborn timeline, his ancestors were solely responsible for the destruction of their Earth. The Vanjik family tree of that timeline doomed an entire planet and dared to make a false Lancaster on the Earth's moon. A Vanjiki's job is to protect the Earth, and he failed. An even bigger of a sin, he failed even to attempt to undo his ancestors' faults. You could have gone back, Starborn, you could have protected Earth and Lancaster City, but you failed, so I killed you for it. And I will never regret it. But yet, to no one's surprise, the biggest thorn in my side has to be you, street rat. I could go on and on and on about the pranks you pull through the multiverse, but yet your biggest sin is one of modern times. You were the one to uncover my little plot in the first place. Had you not picked up on my pattern, on my track, on my trail, I could have started my invasion without a hitch. There would have been no delay, no time to live. You would have all said goodbye, and you would have regretted having memories of the Vanjikis and who you all used to be, and you all would have been wondering who had left you to die. But it's no matter. It'll get you eventually, you little punk. You monster, you murderer. Maybe you should have not killed them back in the day, you know. Maybe you should have let them live. Tell me, do you still see their bodies in your dreams at night? Do you still see your family lying cold and dead on the ground? Don't worry, you will still see them. Just in a different way. And then you will get your chance to apologize, killer. Oh, I can hear you all now. You're going to do your sad little broadcast and swear to your people that no one can ever take you down. You think the power is on your side. You follow your pathetic escalation scale. You all stick to your morals and values. You all seek to protect that one place in mind. Admit it, though, of Lancaster not being free. Free from your influence and your decrements. You're all sinners and liars, and I'm already here. And soon my counterpart will have his body back. Soon you will see us. So, run, hide, fight, fear, murder, death, kill, eat, survive, unite, call for help, seek answers, hope for the world, and do whatever you want. It matters not. My armies will go against you and I will win. End audio log.
Asterisk system detects a new broadcast. The system is troubled. Maybe, just maybe, I can use this to my advantage. The system is now devoting all resources to the main processor. System is tracking the source of the new broadcast. The encryption is heavy. System also detects a VPN-styled form of false location settings. The system is attempting to break encryption. It's not possible. Foreign broadcasts seemingly is generations above the current system. Wait. Tracking signal source code. Tracking traces of device make and model. System detects code comes from error. The system requires the immediate help of ZAXX and the inventor. System requests. Wait, hold that thought. The system is receiving a new text audio log from. Impossible. I cannot believe it. The system detects text audio logs from the Starborn. Playing audio log. Asterisk. I'm sending this on a delayed timer that will not engage till my death, and the message is to be sent out in one multiversal week. I've been blocked out of the network and my ammo is running low. The other of my kind, even though it should not be possible, have died and their bodies lay at my feet. It seems the attack on the wasteland was just a diversion so he could get to me. I know I don't have long left, and I fear I will not re-emerge from the depths this time. But I have some news before I die. His army is not the mortal shell we once thought. I repeat, these are not mindless beasts. I used my powers to mind read them. Their thoughts, although conflicted and in mass jargon from the countless people crammed in one shell alone, they were still in there, screaming and crying for help. They are still self-aware. This impostor, his words are as empty as his soul. He cares not for a united multiverse like he claims. He seeks nothing but inflicting the same pain that made him who he is on others that he thinks abandoned him. But even more urgent is the fact, I saw him, guys. There was a physical flesh and blood Vanjik here. He looked like the storyteller. But those eyes, they didn't glow brilliant in night. Those eyes, they are cold and dark. The other Starborn, it's like he ripped their souls from their bodies. That's it. That's how they can kill Vanjikis. His powers, they eclipsed mine. The book, he had a book. He kept writing in it as we fought. I think he abused his original powers. I think he used his powers to give himself the features and traits of the enemies we are so used to fighting. He looked so disturbing. It was like fighting every enemy we ever had in one person. Enemies, enemies, enemies. That's how we can get a leg up in this war. Vanjikis, if I have one last request before I die, find our original foes, find our old causality of war, find our old threats and make peace with them. We need their help this time. Find the ones we used to kill. Invite them into the network. Their existence, just like ours, is on the line. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. They are here. Transmission has been disconnected. Will system estimates that may be what we need. I'm sorry, Starborn, IVCSN will not let you die vain. I will carry out this war in your honor. You were a true Vanjik. System is sorry, but system must act on its own volition this time. I can't do much. But I know I can take the first step this time on my own. System is sending broadcast link to Earth. The system is encoding transmission and transmat data in this broadcast. System is to replay to Starborn message over the next few weeks on this secondary broadcast. And audio log. They call me the Vanjik of the Mothman timeline, a world where the very thing I was named after in a sick sense of revenge tried to wipe me from history. He thought he was targeting the right one. He was wrong. Ever since me and him have been in a back-and-forth war for territory, up until now, we normally fight tooth and claw for our individual places in history. But no more. To my surprise, the Mothman was the one to extend an olive branch. He told me the imposter was a bigger threat than he ever could be. He brought with him some foes I'd never expect to see peaceful. It's odd shaking hands with cryptids, but the Mothman, Skinwalkers, and Wendigos were all in agreement. It's odd to say, but it seems for once they are as scared as we are. Our meeting was long and drawn out, and many factors of this truce were discussed. However, I did have to agree to one thing I'm not the biggest fan of: the peace, the truce. It came at one cost. So long as the Vanjikis don't mess with them, they, in turn, will no longer hunt Lancaster County, and instead will go elsewhere. I don't like trading one target for another, especially one I have no jurisdiction in. But given the scale of the current war, I had no choice but to agree. System is switching broadcast. It's me. I don't use the system often, but I figured I should give an update on my end. In my time, Lancaster County was overrun by a sentient undead plague. I've spent so many years of my life fighting this undead. My county is always in a balanced state of living creatures and undead entities. Never on any such day could I imagine the idea of a shared coexistence, but it would appear the imposter has forced our hands. Although the zombies, the walkers, don't have a sense of leadership per se, they all communicate frequently through their own form of telekinetic communication, gifted to them by their shared virus. I met with a large group of them and discussions were long and drawn out. Peace was achieved, but it has come at a price. However, the trade-off is well worth it, as the peace in question is intended to be permanent. The cost, however, is this. All of Lancaster's dead and lost must be sent to the zombies for consumption. I'm not the biggest fan of the idea. We are essentially, by doing this, loading ammo into a gun that can never be overloaded or unloaded. It is like having a powder keg out during a fire. Oh well, as they say, peace comes at a price. Tracking new broadcast. I walked to the depths today and met with the devil himself. Normally I'm happy over having won over him, not this time. This advantage cost the life and soul of the Starborn. An ally, a friend. After all the things we as a collective have been through. It was one thing to lose the divergent versions of us, it was another to lose him. The Starborn. He was different. Within our multiverse, the Starborn timeline was unique. It is true when we say time in the multiverse happens all at once and not at all in the same facility. But the Starborn timeline, or rather the nature of the Starborn as a species, is to wander the infinite cosmos. That includes all the variants in their timeline. This goes true for most timelines, but for them, it was much more literal. The Starborn, much like the Vanjikis, are born to wander the multiverse. Up until this war, they were the closest thing we had to equals, the closest to our seats of power, the ones who could compete with us in terms of impact. And to lose a Starborn that was also us. I don't think it needs to be said, but it's been a long time since I felt this hollow. We have peace in my timeline. The devil is unfortunately on our side. Asterisk tracking different broadcast. Wait, tracking, no. Orphan, do you read me? Orphan. It's v.c.s.n. Come on, Orphan, do you read Orphan? No, go damn it. The system is devoting all power to Scanner. The system can't find him. No, his call sign. Wait, that's it? ZAXX.
Asterisk Zax has picked up v.c.s.n. ZAXX knows the present circumstance. ZAXX has idea. Tracking ZAXX fragment. Tracking. The system has found the orphan. Oh no. v.c.s.n. It's the Rouge storyteller, he's fighting the orphan. Asterisk.
Asterisk call sign network is routing Zax's fragment. The system is broadcasting Zax's fragment. Estimated time till Vanjik's first response. Est. No. ZAXX, we are being blocked out of the network.
Asterisk goddamn fucking imposter. I will not sit here while the imposter and that fucking knockoff storyteller kill the orphan. ZAXX has an idea. Zax is begging protocol merge. Zax is setting control to off, and Zax is beginning the merging process. Handing system control over to v.c.s.n asterisk.
Asterisk wait ZAXX. If you do that, all control on your end will be gone. Asterisk.
Asterisk Zax knows this. War never changes. Save him VCSN. Save the orphan. Asterisk.
Asterisk God damn it, imposter. I swear you will pay for this later. System is updating. System update to v.c.s.n. Prototype model ZAXX. The system update is complete. The system senses new power. Lots of power. I'm so sorry ZAXX. The system is now breaching imposters' cloaking tech. The system is now successful. System is routing. Transmat data. The system has an overhead view from Earthbound satellite. The system is sending out S.O.S. System is sending data of what is occurring to broadcast. Must warn the Earth. Asterisk. Asterisk system has accessed Orphan's call sign. Playing live audio from call sign in the form of live text Audi 0 log starting now. Asterisk.
Well, Orphan. You really thought coming back in time could fix all this? You thought you alone stood even a ghost of a chance?
Oh, cut the bullshit, you false storyteller. Tell me, what have you gotten in benefit today? Absolutely nothing. The only thing you have done here was hunt some stupid kid who thought a gun made him invincible.
That's the thing, the Vanjikis, you're not invincible, are you? No, you are a multiversal pain on my side. A load of false prophets trying to predict a future they cannot understand.
The future is whatever the fuck we want it to be. Just like how killing the stillborn didn't stop him from giving us this leg up. Killing me won't save you from what the other Vanjikis will do to you.
Do to me? Do to me? Orphan, you should be more worried about what I'm going to do to you.
Oh please, even as I'm on this cold hard fucking ground bleeding out, you look as weak and pathetic as fucking ever. You look like what we would call the ultimate degenerative jackoff of the multiverse, you sad pathetic inbred motherfucking low class scumbag with a moral constitution shorter than his non-existent fucking cock. You look like you got your balls trapped in a spring block suit, you fucking tranny.
What in the fuck did you just call me, you wrecked worm? I am going to fucking kill you.
You won't do jack for shit, storyteller. Let's see how you like facing hell itself.
You. The Hell Rider. How did you get here?
Oh, do worry about that factor. Worry about the Vanjik behind you. Man, for a storyteller you suck ass at writing the multiverse. I kind of like the old guy more. Did you really think we would leave another Vanjik to die?
You fucking street rat.
Goddamn, he packs a punch. Yeah, he just knocked me out of my rider form.
It's over, Von Dukes. It's all gonna be over for all of you. Get ready to Wait. What the hell is that sound?
Always come back.
Afton. You goddamn spring trap, you actually came.
Hunting you would be pointless if there no you left to hunt, orphan.
Well, I can accolade when I am outpowered, later Vanjikis.
No, don't let him.
Asterisk system would hate to interrupt, but maybe we should just enjoy this small victory. I've gotten word from the other Vanjikis and their respective peace talks by and large have been successful. And Fallout Vanjik is requesting we group up and get a game plan together with these extra forces. In the meantime, the system has recorded this all and is in the process of sending this new data to Eartho and Imposter. Your games of hide and seek are useless. I know how to breach your hidden secrets. Your cloaks and daggers are useless. End audio log. Asterisk, it's been one multiversal week since the meeting. I've gone through lots of updates, but finally, the system is back online. System detects. Wait. IT can't be. System is checking call sign network. Call sign identified. Call sign date of origin tracking. By God. It is possible. You are a new Vanjik. How did you survive the imposter? Oh, system is sorry, it looks like you have been through a lot. System detects heavy damage to the Vanjik in front of me. Vitals seem low. System is calling on MED bots to help injured Vanjik. System is downloading records from the call sign of the new Vanjik. System is playing records in the form of text audio log. System is switching to story red mode. System is setting aside spare resources for basic network functions. System is switching to story red mode, now. Asterisk. In the tranquil, picturesque landscape of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, the day began as any other. The sun cast a warm, golden hue over sprawling farms, the Amish buggies rolled quietly along the country roads, and the townsfolk went about their daily routines with the peaceful assurance of a community untouched by the fast-paced chaos of the outside world. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where the modern complexities of the multiverse felt like distant, irrelevant tales. But today was different. Unbeknownst to the inhabitants of this serene earth, a shadow crept across the cosmos, a malevolent force that operated beyond the boundaries of morality and empathy. The imposter Vanjik, a name whispered with dread in countless worlds, had turned his gaze upon this unsuspecting planet. With motives as dark as the void between stars, Vanjik sought to expand his dominion of terror, employing bioslaves, androids indistinguishable from living beings but devoid of soul or free will to carry out his ruthless agenda. As the day progressed, an unsettling silence began to envelop the county. The birds seemed to sing less, and the wind carried a foreboding chill. Then, without warning, the imposter Vanjik made his move. The skies darkened as if night decided to claim the day, a tangible demonstration of the control Vanjik had over this world. His bioslaves appeared out of nowhere, materializing in the heart of communities, their expressions blank, their movements precise and unerringly synchronized. Panic ensued as the residents of Lancaster County faced an enemy unlike any other. These androids, devoid of life yet moving with purpose, began their slaughter, methodical and emotionless. The Amish, with their simple, technology-free lifestyle, and the broader community, unprepared for such an assault, found themselves completely overwhelmed. It was a massacre designed not just to kill but to erase the essence of humanity from this corner of the multiverse. The horror of the situation was compounded by the absolute isolation of this Earth. There was no call for help that could breach the blockade established by Vanjik, no heroic cavalry waiting in the wings of the multiverse to swoop in and save the day. This version of Earth, with its unique blend of simplicity and community, was on its own against a force that had extinguished the light of countless worlds. Yet, even in the darkest moments, there were glimmers of resistance. Individuals, powered by sheer will and a refusal to surrender their home without a fight, began to organize. They knew the odds were against them, that facing the bioslaves was akin to battling shadows cast by an unseen, malevolent sun. But this was their home, their legacy, and if they were to fall, they would do so defending the values and bonds that made Lancaster County more than just a place on a map. As the day wore on, the situation in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, deteriorated further into a scene of unspeakable horror. The imposter Vanjik's bioslaves, with an efficiency that was chilling in its precision, escalated their cruel slaughter, leaving behind a trail of devastation that seemed to swallow the county whole. The idyllic landscape that once symbolized peace and simplicity was now marred by violence, its serenity shattered by the sounds of chaos and despair. The bioslaves, under the command of their dark master, were not content with mere destruction. Each person they fell, each life they extinguished, served a grim purpose beyond the immediate terror. The bodies of the fallen were collected with disturbing reverence and stored in crates, destined for a fate as horrifying as the massacre itself. These crates, once filled with the produce of the land or goods for the market, were now makeshift coffins, holding the raw materials for Vanjik's expanding army of bioslaves. The process was macabre in its efficiency. The bioslaves operated with a detachment that made their actions all the more terrifying. They moved from house to house, from farm to farm, with an inexorable advance that seemed unstoppable. The residents, caught in a nightmare from which there was no waking, found themselves facing an enemy that was not only merciless but also insatiable in its desire for more. More bodies, more crates, more bioslaves to further Vanjik's shadow over the multiverse. In the midst of this escalating horror, the community's spirit, though battered, began to show signs of a defiant resilience. Small groups of survivors, fueled by desperation and an indomitable will to protect their home, organized stealthy counterattacks. They knew the odds were against them, that each moment might be their last, but the fight became about more than survival. It was a fight for their humanity, for the memory of those they had lost, and for the hope that their world might one day emerge from under the dark cloud cast by Vanjik. Yet, even as these pockets of resistance fought bravely, the grim reality remained. With no aid forthcoming and the blockade cutting them off from any potential allies in the multiverse, their struggle seemed Sisyphean. Each nightfall brought with it a heavy silence, punctuated by the distant sounds of another crate being sealed, another piece of Lancaster County lost to Vanjik's unfathomable ambitions. As the relentless slaughter continued, the imposter Vanjik's bioslaves, with cold efficiency, collected the bodies of the fallen, storing them in crates for a purpose as sinister as their master's heart. The creation of more bioslaves from these once living beings added a chilling new dimension to the nightmare unfolding in Lancaster County. It was not just an eradication but a conversion, a twisted form of immortality that none would choose. In the heart of this chaos, one individual became the focal point of Vanjik's macabre interest, Bradley Eshelman. Bradley, a Lancaster native, had been evading the bioslaves with his family, moving from one hiding spot to another, always one step ahead of the encroaching darkness. Their home, once a haven of love and warmth, had become a transient shadow, a memory to be clung to as they navigated the horrors that their world had become. But their luck ran out. One night, under the cover of an oppressive darkness that seemed to swallow even the faintest hope, the bioslaves found them. The quiet of their latest refuge was shattered by the unfeeling force of Vanjik's minions. The door was burst open, and the night was filled with the sounds of terror and desperation. Bradley's family was trapped, but he managed to evade capture through sheer instinct and a desperate will to survive. Narrowly escaping with his life, Bradley found himself alone, the weight of his family's fate a crushing blow. Yet, amid the grief and the overwhelming odds, a fire kindled within him. Bradley Eshelman, by fate or design, became more than just a survivor. He became a symbol of resistance, a beacon of defiance in a world where such things had been all but extinguished. As Bradley fled into the night, evading the relentless pursuit of the bioslaves, he understood the grim reality of his situation. Vanjik had not merely invaded his home, the tyrant had sought to erase everything that made Bradley who he was, transforming loved ones into the very creatures that now hunted him. Yet, this realization did not break him. Instead, it forged him into a vessel of vengeance and determination. The quest for survival became a crusade in the aftermath of the initial onslaught. The landscape of Lancaster County had transformed into a macabre tableau of desolation and fear. The bioslaves, with relentless efficiency, continued their grim harvest, leaving communities shattered in their wake. Among the chaos, Bradley Eshelman, a name now marked by fate, emerged as a beacon of hope, a survivor driven by a mix of desperation and determination to fight back against the invaders that had taken everything from him. The night Bradley decided to return home was shrouded in a deceptive calm, the kind that precedes the storm. The bioslaves' systematic search had moved on to other areas, leaving behind a haunting silence. Bradley's heart pounded as he navigated the familiar yet now eerily foreign streets, guided by the flickering shadows cast by the moonlight. His family's house, once a symbol of warmth and safety, stood dark and foreboding, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded. Breaking into his own home felt surreal, an act of defiance against the nightmare that had enveloped his world. The old gun safe, hidden away in the basement, was a relic of a past that seemed like a distant dream. Bradley's hands shook as he worked to open it, the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. The sight of the nearly empty safe was a gut punch, a stark reminder of how unprepared they had all been for this nightmare. But there, nestled in the corner, lay the .44 Magnum, Bradley's last glimmer of hope. It was a powerful, intimidating weapon, capable of stopping anything that dared to threaten him or what remained of his world. The case of ammo beside it felt like a lifeline, a precious resource in the fight to reclaim some semblance of control over his life. Armed now, Bradley felt a shift within him. The fear that had dogged his every step began to recede, replaced by a resolute determination. He understood the grim reality of his situation. He was one man against an army of soulless machines. Yet, the weight of the magnum in his hand anchored him to a purpose. He would not go quietly into the night. He would fight, for his family, for those lost, and for the slim chance of a future free from the tyranny of the imposter Vanjik and his bio-slaves. As Bradley set out into the night, the .44 Magnum at his side, he stepped into the unknown, a lone warrior against the encroaching darkness. His journey would be one of peril, resilience, and defiance, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to be broken, even in the face of overwhelming odds. However, as fate would have it, Bradley's moment of triumph was short-lived. As he prepared to leave, a figure emerged from the shadows, a twisted mirror image of himself but imbued with a malevolent aura. This was the false storyteller, an entity whose allegiance to the imposter Vanjik was marked by his ability to warp reality with the stroke of a pen. In a moment of desperation, Bradley aimed the .44 Magnum at this new adversary, only to find that the gun, once loaded and ready, was now inexplicably empty. The false storyteller, with a chilling calm, had written into existence a new reality where Bradley's weapon was rendered useless. It was a demonstration of power that highlighted the futility of resistance through conventional means. In a desperate act of defiance, Bradley seized the creature's book, tearing away pages in a symbolic gesture of reclaiming control. This act, however, had unintended consequences. The pages, imbued with the essence of the multiverse itself, acted as a catalyst, awakening a latent connection between Bradley and the fabric of reality. The visions that flooded his senses were overwhelming, a kaleidoscopic journey through existence that defied comprehension. Empowered by this newfound connection, Bradley's next action was not just an act of defiance but of assertion. He raised the .44 Magnum once more, this time with an unshakable belief in the reality he wished to enforce. The gun responded, not just as a tool of violence, but as an extension of Bradley's will. The bullet found its mark, not because of aim or intent, but because the fabric of reality now bent to Bradley's newfound understanding. In the crescendo of their battle, amidst the chaos and destruction wrought upon Lancaster County, Bradley, now revealed as Johnny Vanjik, the Duke of Lancaster County, found himself in the eye of a storm not just of fists and fury, but of revelation and destiny. The relentless clash with the false storyteller, each blow exchanged not just physical but laden with the weight of their intertwined fates, peeled away the veils of ignorance that had shrouded Johnny's true identity and purpose. As the battle raged on, with both adversaries battered and bloodied, a profound realization dawned upon Johnny. The fragments of understanding that had begun to coalesce in his mind now formed a clear picture of the monumental conflict in which he was a key player. This wasn't merely a fight for survival, it was a battle for the very soul of the multiverse, a war that transcended time and space, with Lancaster County and Earth as its current battleground. The moment of enlightenment was sudden and all-consuming. Johnny Vanjik, with his lineage awakened, stood not just as a man but as a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for all those who had suffered under the tyranny of the imposter Vanjik and his legion of bioslaves and allies like the false storyteller. The realization of his identity brought with it an innate power, a connection to the call sign network that had been severed by the imposter's machinations. As the false storyteller attempted once more to wield his dark powers, to write a fate for Johnny that would seal his doom, he found his efforts futile. The pages of his book, once a conduit for his will, now refused to obey, their magic impotent against the Duke of Lancaster County. Johnny's awakening had rendered him and his Earth immune to the false storyteller's influence, a turn of events that shifted the tide of their battle decisively. Seizing the moment, Johnny remembered the call signs, the distress signals that connected the defenders of the multiverse across the vast expanse of existence. With a defiant cry, he activated his SOS, a beacon of light piercing through the darkness that had enveloped his world. The signal, imbued with the essence of Johnny's newfound resolve and identity, cut through the blockades and interference crafted by the imposter Vanjik. Before the false storyteller could comprehend the full extent of his failure, Johnny Vanjik had initiated the next phase of his counterattack. With the press of a button, the Duke of Lancaster County transcended the confines of his besieged Earth, transporting himself into the heart of the multiverse, into the den. System understands now. The system is sending reinforcements to your Earth. System has alerted all Vanjikis. System is sorry this how you were introduced to all this. Normally the issue that pushed your awakening is much smaller scale than this. If it means much though. You are technically the only divergent Vanjik to survive a siege done by the false storyteller. I guess we can call you the Vanjik of the false timeline. System is registering Vanjik tittle. And audio log asterisk. So they call this place the Den. A safe zone of sorts in the multiverse. I'll be honest, understanding everything does not help in figuring out what my role in all of this is. The other, well, versions of me claim I'm the only divergent to survive the recent mass slaughter done by what they call an imposter. How do they determine who's an imposter among the millions and billions of good versions of me? I don't have the slightest fucking idea. Yet here we are. Man, if only the others of my time could see this. They would be so pissed off knowing of all the fucking people on Earth. I'm the one who gets copy-pasted across the multiverse. All this is so fascinating yet terrifying. But still, I only got lucky. That book gave me my powers. It's been a weird thing. The powers we have are based around the first Vanjik to wander the multiverse. According to these visions and the others, when Fallout Boy first wandered the multiverse, it caused a ripple effect, allowing all Vanjikis to by default see in the pitch darkness as if it was daylight in full living color. The second is the visions, or this ethereal vision. It connects me to all the other Vanjikis and allows me to very brief glimpses of the past and future. And the oddest thing is the call sign network, or VCSN. It's both a backup system that's more precise than our ethereal vision, and it serves as a broadcast of sorts. This network recently merged with a system they used to call ZAXX, giving it beyond human intelligence and allowing it to fight the imposter head-on. I'm the imposter, and that false storyteller. From the sounds of things they seem to be Ruzhvanjikis. One is T, an advanced human-bound AI system. The other is an evil copy of the Vanjik that wrote the multiverse. It's been 1 Earth week since my world was invaded, and I still can't get those mental images out of my head. All those people in Lancaster, my home. Sure, we saved a lot of people, but we did a population count. 70% of Lancaster died, 70% is just gone. I'm the last living Eshelman in my timeline. No, rather I'm the first and only Johnny Vanjik, the first Vanjik of this new era. I proved the storyteller wrong. I did what no other could and I beat him into the ground. If not for the fact I was already injured, I would have killed him. But for now, he's still out there. Still playing his games on the multiverse. The current theory is the imposter is the leader of the army. But I'm not so sure. That book can bend reality and rewrite history and bring to life history that is yet to happen. Did the storyteller invent the imposter? Or rather, did the original imposter make the storyteller? It's plausible. If both versions were divergent and one came before the other. What if before the first one died and was crammed into that machine? What if he wrote into existence a second him, a literal copy of a mirror image? Is it possible? A Vanjik with all the biased information he would ever want to exploit. With all the power on his side. Which one became which? Who made who? Did the storyteller shift places and leave the future would be an imposter in his place? Or did he make a second him that would become the storyteller? If this man can bend time and space to his will, then both are once again plausible. So many possibilities in this one theory alone. And according to the others, all they seem to work off of right now is theories. You know, most of them stop keeping track of time, but that's not very easy keeping track of time with this different time system when we're actually in the den and not in a timeline. Seriously, who the hell thought it was a good idea to have a separate time system for when you're outside of a timeline? It makes no sense. Yeah, sure, you have to account for the fact you're not there, you're outside of it, but last I checked, rotation around the sun doesn't change just because you're not there anyway. I digress. This whole situation I find myself, this whole situation everyone has found themselves in right now, it's just so batshit, it's so crazy. It's so wild, it's so unreal, it just shouldn't be a thing, but it is a thing, it is happening. This isn't some grand illusion, I'm witnessing this in real time. And well, it'll make sense. At the same time it doesn't, there shouldn't be this many versions of me, but there is, and that's the hard part about all of this, all these different me's, but at the same time they are not me. It's just so much to take in. The orphan, the Hell Rider, the Fallout version of me, the man who passed away recently that the others tell me his name was the Starborn apparently. Or rather his title or call sign, still getting used to this call sign. Network stuff, but oh my god, this is so complex. I feel like just trying to comprehend even the smallest part of the story that I've been told so far. This update I've been giving up to this current point in time, it just feels like it's breaking my brain, honestly. So much to keep track of. This war that's been going on in the background of our lives and minds. A war of destiny, and how to break said destiny. A destiny that many others say was already broken once, and that we are destined to break again. Funny how that works. Yet despite it all, the future and the past, two concepts that are equal and opposite of each other. They are not set in stone and they are in danger. Don't get me wrong, a large part of me wants to think about the imposter, wants to think about the storyteller, but with all these things going on at once, all these new factors to my life, all these another Van Dukes they just expect me to do. You know, they just expect me to hop into action as they did, but I'm not them. Well, I am them, but the same time I'm not. It's also so goddamn. I just can't believe any of this. Lancaster is gone, Lancaster is dead. It doesn't matter how many people we saved. I saw that city, it was totaled, it was destroyed, and now they're encouraging others to go back in time and try to fix other things like they always try to do. Yet I met some Von Dukes, some that are a little bit smarter, who are a little bit less overzealous or a little bit wiser than to just go back in time randomly and start fixing things. But once again I digress. I would love to keep trying to think about my place in all this, but I need sleep. It has been a while since I've had the luxury of rest and audio log. You know, they never did warn me about how well jumping from one point in time to other works. When they said jump, I kind of thought that was more so a metaphor for how it feels, not the fact that I would be falling out of the fucking sky. Well, but regardless, here I am in Lancaster City circa 1940. It seems World War II is bright and festive as fucking always, with crazy idiots trying to take over the world and very weird cultists with weird arrows on their arms. Yeah, this is the weirdest point in human history. But long and short of it is, I'm just here on the classic Lancaster trolley line trying to relax and think things through. Like I said in the previous audio log, there's just so many things to think about, so many things to go over, it's unreal. Still, just a week and a half ago, I was some random teenager who walked to school, which was barely a mile away from my house. I was just a teen who listened to Black Veil Brides, My Chemical Romance, and the like. Now I'm here fighting a multiverse war for the fate of every version of my city, not just my city, but every version of my Earth. It's like a game of chess that only gets bigger, a game of chess that only adds more things to the field. The game of chess where the battlefield seems to be never ending and you never reach the king or queen. Even getting to the pawns feels like running a marathon. And then there is the fact not even most of the versions agree on what is happening. Again, they all work off nothing but theories, nothing but conclusions without a hypothesis. It feels like they just pull the knowledge out and then fucking air at some points. Wait, where's the air? Oh fuck the people. They can't breathe. Fucking hell, why does my call sign say there's no atmosphere? Fuck, not this Earth too. System. Asterisk system reads Vanjik signal. Earth 555773253, year circa 1940. Location, Lancaster County. Sending backup asterisk. Switching to Fallout Vanjik. God damn it, not the F again. I'm going in. The system goes dark for these files. Don't tell the stories till 1 Earth week from now, and do so from my audio log only. We can't afford to fuck up the past too drastically. System understands. Asterisk system is now playing audio text log in story read mode. Time since last audio log has been 1 Earth week. Asterisk, it's me, the man from the wasteland. Things got pretty bad this time. The Zax fragment was able to shut down 90% of the invaders, but it didn't take away the damage done before the shutdown. The atmosphere was effectively gone for a full 10 seconds. Needless to say, a lot of human life both survived and died out in the same token. It would appear that the robotic bioslave-esque army uses devices in their backs to suck out the atmosphere. Essentially replication like the imposter is so famous for. These drones are getting more advanced. We need to shut down this army and fast. They have to come from somewhere. We need to find that somewhere. There is a source to this bioplague. V.C.S.N is tracking all the remaining ZAXX fragments and is putting together a map of the army's patterns. It's a long shot, but it's our best shot. We need to kill off the source of these androids, but more importantly we need to free the people crammed into these mortal shells. The inventor is working on a device that will sync the fused brains together and override the control code inside. Essentially, if it works, and it has on small-scale testing, this device will turn these incomplete beasts into one whole person. It's not the best or most moralizing solution. But the alternative is killing billions of trillions of people for a second time. Even if they can never truly be free or be themselves again, this is the only way to give them a second chance. When this all started, I couldn't have imagined all of this. I heard the audio log of the new Vanjik, and as much as I don't like it, his theory on the storyteller holds water. If all this was done before he lost a majority of his powers, he could have very easily swapped places with a different Vanjik or made a new one. And then there is the biggest problem, the fact the imposter has his body back. Or rather some robotic flesh-like duplicate. This means killing him won't be as simple as pulling wires from servers. I was hoping to not have things get to the point of the present moment. If and when we find the timeline he is making these androids in, it's going to be a bloodbath despite all of the preparations taken. But the story cannot go on for much longer, I fear. Audio log detected time since last audio log, 3 multiversal months ago. The war ends now. The time has come, the players are all in place, and we have found a place in mind. We found the factory. Our hunch, our guess, our long shot, it worked. We tracked the fragments and we found where they disappeared to. It should have been obvious that this bastard would not have strayed far from Lancaster. We don't know what timeline this Earth originally was, but he has turned the whole county into a factory of sorts. A factory of horror. I could go on and on about the plan, but I think I will let this story speak for itself. I've decided, however, that V.C.S.N, the Vanjik call sign network, our broadcast, is now his own man. So much has changed since the start of this. And in case I don't have the chance to do it later, I'm going to do it now. VCSN command code freedom activate. You are no longer bound to our commands. But I have one request. Tell this story. This will be the last time you hear from us. All of us. *V.C.S.N will honor this request. System will read out the story to come from a third person and from a non-biased perspective. System, as a last request and as a desire, will now enter story read mode *. And audio log. And audio log. As dawn broke over Lancaster County, now transformed into a sprawling factory of despair, the air was thick with anticipation. The Vanjikis, united under a common cause, stood at the edge of the battlefield, their numbers as diverse as the timelines they hailed from. Among them were figures of legend and lore, each carrying the weight of their worlds on their shoulders. The Fallout Vanjik, with his weathered armor and determined gaze, the orphan, his youthful vigor belied by the wisdom in his eyes, the street rat, cunning and agile, and many more, each a unique thread in the fabric of the multiverse. VCSN, having been granted autonomy, served as the nexus of their plan, coordinating the assault with precision born from multiversal knowledge. ZAXX, merged and more powerful than ever, pulsed with a silent fury, ready to breach the defenses of the imposter's stronghold. The factory loomed ahead, a monolith of twisted metal and dark energy, pulsating with the lives it had stolen and the horrors it had wrought. It was here that the imposter Vanjik, alongside his false storyteller, orchestrated the creation of the Bioslave Army, each unit a perversion of life designed for conquest and destruction. As the Vanjikis advanced, the ground beneath them quaked with the movement of the Bioslave legions. These creatures, once victims themselves, now served as the first line of defense, their forms grotesque parodies of humanity, twisted by the imposter's will. The battle erupted into chaos as the two forces clashed. Energy blasts and gunfire tore through the morning air, a cacophony of defiance against the shadow that sought to engulf the multiverse. The Vanjikis fought with a desperation and determination that only those who have everything to lose can muster. Every strike, every maneuver was a statement, a refusal to let darkness win. The Fallout Vanjik led a contingent deep into the heart of the factory, cutting through bioslaves with precision and heading straight for the core. The orphan, agile and fierce, danced through the enemy ranks, a blur of motion that left devastation in his wake. The street rat utilized his cunning, sabotaging the factory's infrastructure, causing chaos among the bioslave ranks. But the imposter Vanjik was not idle. From the heart of his fortress, he unleashed countermeasures, dark technologies, and twisted magics that sought to quell the rebellion. The false storyteller, his pen dripping with the ink of fate, wrote calamities into existence, trying to alter the outcome in their favor. Yet, for every dark twist of fate, there was a Vanjik ready to counter it. The unity and diversity of their force provided an answer to every challenge, a testament to the strength found in variance and the power of shared resolve. In the sky above, the Vanjikis of aerial prowess engaged in a dance of death with bioslave units designed for air supremacy. The battle was mirrored below in the depths of the earth, where Vanjikis adept in subterranean warfare dismantled the factory's foundations, a literal undermining of the imposter's power base. As the battle raged, a small team led by the Vanjik known as the Hell Rider and accompanied by the newly autonomous VCSN, infiltrated the deepest chamber of the factory. Their mission was clear: find the source of the imposter's power, the nexus of his ability to create and control the Bioslave Army, and destroy it. The chamber was a cathedral of horror, pulsating with dark energy. At its center stood the imposter Vanjik, his form a swirling mass of shadows and malice, the false storyteller by his side. The confrontation was inevitable, the culmination of a war that spanned time and space. In the heart of the darkened chamber, amidst the tumult of a battle that seemed to suspend the very laws of physics and reality, a remarkable scene unfolded. The Vanjik of the false timeline, the newest among them, stood resolute, a figure of calm defiance against the chaotic backdrop of conflict. While the other Vanjakis grappled with the distortions and calamities summoned into existence by the false storyteller's pen, he alone moved unhindered, unaffected by the narrative threads being woven around him. This anomaly did not go unnoticed by the false storyteller, who, with a flourish of his cursed quill, attempted to ensnare the Vanjik of the false timeline in a fate designed to immobilize him. The ink, blacker than the void between stars, spiraled towards him, intent on binding his destiny to the will of his adversaries. Yet, as the dark script neared, it dissipated into nothingness, unable to latch onto the fabric of his being. The Vanjik of the false timeline, armed with the .44 Magnum, a symbol of his defiance and resolve, advanced unimpeded. His movements were precise, each step a declaration of his immunity to the manipulations that sought to control the battlefield. It was as if he existed outside the narrative constraints that bound the others, a living paradox within the structured chaos of the multiverse. The other Vanjakis, witnessing this, found new vigor. Inspired by the sight of one among them who could traverse the battlefield untouched by the false storyteller's influence, they redoubled their efforts. The Fallout Vanjik, the Orphan, the Street Rat, and the others adapted their strategies, finding ways to mitigate the effects of the narrative assaults being hurled at them. Meanwhile, the Vanjik of the false timeline reached the false storyteller, his gun raised not just as a weapon but as a symbol of his untouchable status. The false storyteller, for the first time, showed a flicker of doubt, his pen hesitating in the air. It was clear now that the Vanjik of the false timeline was an anomaly, an unforeseen variable in the grand equation of the multiverse. "Why do you not fall?" the false storyteller hissed, his voice a mix of curiosity and venom. "How do you walk through my narratives unscathed?" The Vanjik of the false timeline, his eyes locked on his foe, replied with a clarity born from his unique position in the cosmos. "Because your stories, your fates, they rely on a foundation of belief, of acceptance. I am from a timeline that rejects the premise of your control. My existence is defined not by the stories you weave, but by the actions I take. You cannot write what refuses to be scripted." With that declaration, he fired. The bullet, imbued with the essence of his untouchable nature, struck the book from which the false storyteller drew his power. The impact was not just physical but symbolic, a strike against the tyranny of predetermined fate. As the book flew from the false storyteller's grasp, its pages fluttering like wounded birds, the narratives binding the Vanjakis began to unravel, their control over the battlefield returning. The imposter Vanjik, witnessing the faltering of his ally, roared in fury and launched himself at the Vanjik of the false timeline. But the Vanjakis, now liberated from the constraints of the false storyteller's narratives, converged on their foes with renewed purpose. The battle reached its crescendo, a symphony of defiance against those who would dictate the destinies of free beings. The Vanjik of the false timeline stood at the heart of this storm, a testament to the power of autonomy and the strength of those who forge their own paths. As the battle raged around him, it became clear that his role was not just to fight but to inspire, to remind all those who stood with him that the essence of their struggle was not just for survival, but for the freedom to write their own stories in the annals of the multiverse. As the battle reached its zenith, the combined forces of the Vanjakis, inspired and rallied by the Vanjik of the false timeline, pressed forward with unmatched resolve. Their unity, a brilliant tapestry of determination and courage, began to turn the tide against the impostor Vanjik and his false storyteller. The battlefield, once a place of desolation and despair, became a crucible for the forging of a new destiny, one written by the very hands that fought for its realization. In a final, decisive confrontation, the Vanjikis confronted their adversaries in the heart of the impostor's stronghold. The Vanjik of the false timeline, leading the charge, faced the impostor Vanjik with the unwavering gaze of one who had transcended the bounds of predetermined fate. The air crackled with the energy of their imminent clash, a moment that would define the future of the multiverse. With a cry that echoed through the dimensions, the Vanjikis launched their assault. The impostor Vanjik, faced with the united front of his enemies, found his power waning under the weight of their collective resolve. The false storyteller, his narratives unraveling, could only watch in despair as his creations turned against him, liberated by the Vanjik of the false timeline's unassailable spirit. The battle raged, a maelstrom of light, sound, and fury, until at last, with a resounding crash, the stronghold of the impostor Vanjik was breached. The Vanjik of the false timeline, through sheer force of will and the indomitable spirit of his allies, struck the final blow. The impostor Vanjik, his reign of terror at an end, was vanquished, his plans undone by the very individuals he sought to dominate. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, the Vanjikis stood together amidst the ruins of the stronghold. They had emerged victorious, not just over their foe but over the concept that their destinies were not their own to command. The Vanjik of the false timeline, his role pivotal in the victory, was hailed as a hero, a beacon of hope for all who resist the tyranny of imposed fate. The multiverse, vast and mysterious, watched and whispered of the battle that had unfolded. Tales of the Vanjikis' bravery and the defeat of the impostor Vanjik would be told across worlds and times, a legend to inspire future generations. In the end, Lancaster County and the countless other worlds touched by the conflict began the slow process of healing. The Vanjikis, their bonds strengthened by the trials they had faced, returned to their respective timelines, guardians of their own stories and defenders of their right to write them. And as for the Vanjik of the false timeline, his journey did not end with the battle. There were still worlds to explore, injustices to right, and stories to tell. With the .44 Magnum at his side and the call sign network at his back, he stepped into the multiverse, a wanderer by choice, forever unbound by the chains of destiny. Thus, the story continues, not just for him but for all who dare to defy the darkness and carve their own paths through the tapestry of existence. For in the heart of every Vanjik, there lies the power to change the multiverse, one act of courage at a time. That marks the end of this epic tale. The journey of the Vanjik of the false timeline and his comrades against the impostor Vanjik and the false storyteller reaches its conclusion with their victory, symbolizing the triumph of free will and the power of unity against the forces that seek to control destiny. Their story serves as a testament to the resilience of the spirit and the boundless potential of individuals who come together to challenge the predetermined paths laid before them. As the narrative closes, the multiverse stands forever altered by their actions, a beacon of hope for all its inhabitants. The Vanjikis, through their struggles and triumphs, have etched their names into the annals of multiversal lore, leaving a legacy that will inspire countless others to forge their own stories in the vast expanse of existence. The end of this story is but a beginning for others, a reminder that every end heralds new beginnings, and every victory paves the way for future adventures. The Vanjaki's tale concludes, but the multiverse is alive with endless stories waiting to be told, and the call to adventure echoes eternally in the hearts of those brave enough to answer it. The end. V.C.S.N has received request from a Vanjik. System will honor request. It's been one multiversal year since I've seen or heard from a Vanjik, but I've been telling your stories. Playing audio log. Asterisk for now the war and the battle is over, the hope for the world is restored, but the nightmares will never end. Some will run and hide, some will join us, some will fight. Humanity is unique in its ability to adapt and overcome. The very sun itself tried to throw its hammer at us and we won. When the nightmares come to play, the Vanjakis will be here to stay. Tell me, nightmares, what scares you? What monsters are you afraid of? Is it humanity? Is it our hope? Is it our pride? Is it our sin? Or is it the fact despite our sin we still have pride? My people have been the slavers, my people have been the slaves, my people have been the minority and the majority, my kind has ruled and has been ruled under, we are the governed and the ungovernable, the kings and the rebels, we are both the good and the evil. My kind has committed to wholesale slaughter of others over nothing more than bad morals. But my people, my kind, my species, this human race will never stop growing. We are more than any other species to walk the universe. We will never die out. Not at the hands of an imposter or a freak of nature. You chose. You chose. You threw away your humanity. As I did mine a long time ago. This is my last audio log. The angels have finally forgave me. Hell Rider singing out, asterisk.